It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott here, Richard Campbell's here, and we've got a big shoe coming up for you. We'll talk about Windows 11, a lot of new features. Thank goodness for Paul's feature tracker. Also, the end of the Surface Hub. But the return of the Microsoft Sculpt keyboard. That and a whole lot more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. Episode 928, recorded Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. The rice is done. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we cover the latest Windows news, Microsoft news. Come on, you winners and dozers, gather round. Because here comes Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, everybody. Sorry.
He's apologizing.
That's what I usually do when I meet people. Like, oh, you're Paul Thurrott. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Up front.
Disappointing, isn't it? If it isn't now, it will be soon.
I apologize for everything. Also here, Richard Campbell from RunIsRadio.com. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Last day in Madeira Park. Next week, you'll be you'll be down under?
Yeah, next week. Yeah, so leaving tomorrow. Going to go see the granddaughter for a couple hours before I head to the airport, and then
it's good to get children used to you leaving.
Yep, that's been real life strategies for parenting. You're not around, and that's normal.
Yeah, a child was born just the other day.
Decided we needed a puppy as well. I mean, I didn't want a puppy, but sometimes you're outnumbered 1 to 1.
You got a puppy, I saw.
So now we have a puppy. Yeah.
Very nice.
So
congratulations.
We had to take a tick off the puppy already. So yay.
Oh boy,
that's a little scary.
It's been a while since I had to think about ticks. So,
do you have ticks in Mexico City, Paul?
I have some ticks, Leo. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, well, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of dogs. This is a big dog city.
Yeah, I think
I'm a friend to all the dogs on my street. I stop by. They see me coming. They're out laying on the sidewalk, and you can see the little tail.
Oh,
here he comes!
Little guapo perro.
And I'm always like, "Don't get up," and they always get up. But
you don't get up. Don't get up.
Don't get. Oh, okay, you're up.
They're so polite.
Now you're humping my leg. Okay, that's fine.
We're not here though to talk about your travels, my friends. We're here to talk about Windows 11, the feature tracker.
Travels.
How's that coming along, by the way?
Slowly, Leo. Glad you asked.
Still in?
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it in Notion. Okay. The only issue is it's wide. What I want to do is embed it in my site, which I can do, but it's going to be right now it kind of scrolls left to right, which I don't like. So kind of working through that. But I think the next time I do an update that you guys will see will probably be the week D. Let me just look when that is. Next Tuesday, right?
Not to be confused with week T.
That's right. It was week B, week D of the big update weeks. Preview updates are week D. So the Tuesday, the 22nd, I'll probably update it. But that's kind of the point. That's the beginning of the show, right? So if you're looking at the notes, you might notice that AI spelled colors like a British person, which I will now fix. And but also in the past, when we've talked about what's happened in the past week, especially in the Insider program, I kind of just lay it out like build by build, and I thought maybe I'll do this like the feature tracker, like we'll just list the features instead, because it kind of the important thing here is not really what exact build something was in or what channel it was in necessarily, although that is important, but rather when do we think this is going to come to everybody, right? So I tried to do a little bit of that in here today. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. To me, the biggest thing is, and we learned last week that actually the biggest thing is, of course, the fourth item in my list. So I'm already doing great with this new format. Preview versions of Recall and Click to Do are coming to stable on Copilot Plus PCs, right? Patch Tuesday in May. So we should see that in the preview update next Tuesday. And we know this because they put it in the release preview channel, which has 23, 24 H2 builds and also Windows 10, which we're not going to discuss because, who cares? Tied to this.
Still got Windows 10 on this machine, Yeah.
Don't
Hasn't
get
burst into
attached.
flames or anything.
Yeah, don't get too touched.
Get
You're like, I really
attached.
like that phone style squared off UI. I think it's got legs.
Yeah.
So tied to this is semantic search, which I've struggled to find a good name for. Sometimes they refer to it as semantic search. Sometimes they refer to it as AI-powered search or just Windows search with AI improvements or whatever. But the idea is that
Search that doesn't suck.
Oh,
yeah.
I like
So
that.
going back to Longhorn, we call it Tiger Search from OS 10 Tiger from 2003, 4, whatever year that was. But yeah, this has been the dream for a long time, obviously. So semantic search is local AI powered, which is interesting. So it's Copilot plus PC specific, which will limit its rollout nicely. And it will look for, it's hard to keep track of this. That's why I have a tracker, but it's because there are so many different features, but they started, well, it doesn't matter how they started. So what should ship in stable very soon is image and file / document search across local files, if indexed, and OneDrive. And then soon in the future, maybe not soon, but in the future, third-party cloud storage as well. And this past week in 24H2 dev and beta channels, they started testing Windows setting search through semantic search. So in other words, you bring up search, like window, I got to keep checking. It's Windows key plus Q and S also. So it's one of those is going away. It doesn't matter. But when you bring up Windows search and then you can just type in using natural language, something whatever the thing is you want to change, and it will recommend the right thing in settings, and then you can go there from search results, right? So fairly basic. Richard last week, I think, mentioned or the possibility, which I will now accept as a fact, that a lot of this stuff, and I mean that because it's very obviously, it's once he said it, I was like, yeah, this is clearly what's happening. Setting the stage for a future where Copilot can control your PC in better ways, right? Mm-hmm. That today we use it to find a feature, right? Remember they added a search box to the top of Word and Excel and all those apps, and you could type something in and it would say, here's where you go find that. You're like, okay, but how about you just do it? And so I think these are the natural progressions that these things go through. So
that's the equivalent of Siri saying, here's what I found on the web about that.
Yeah, and because
passing the buck.
Yeah, when AI evolves so quickly like it is now, you can go to one AI and say, "How do I do this thing?" or whatever, and it will say, "Here's how you do it," or "Here's where you can go find that information." Sometimes it will say, I will just do that for you," and it's like that's the one you want, the one that just does it. So I think we're going to get there. Also Copilot plus PC only, but also Snapdragon X only. For now, is natural language in Narrator's image descriptions, right? And so it can see people, objects, colors, text, and numbers in images, and then describe them to you using natural language. That will happen across all Copilot plus PCs. Eventually, that one is the one I'm really not too sure on it timing-wise because, it rolls out Snapdragon X only. That's the progression there, so we'll see what happens. Snipping Tool was updated in Canary, but I see this on my dev computer. So there's a text extraction feature. This is the OCR functionality in this app, which is cool. But they're putting it right in the capture bar, which is that little UI that appears when you first run it. And just to make it less clicks to get to it. So I think the idea here is that you took a shot or you open an image and then you can just immediately go and get the text out of it very easily. So that is good. So that should be soon. That's an app. That one will happen quick. And then the last set is a bunch of stuff. So there's Narrator has a speech recap feature. Again, natural language. That weird phone link start menu integration where the phone link is like a little bar there on the side, like a cancerous growth. Some more File Explorer updates. I feel like we get those every month now. The Windows share feature we talked about earlier where you can edit the image before you share it, right? Those are all in release preview. So that means we can expect those features next Tuesday. And I should say in preview, that's release preview 23H2. So we had previously talked about those features in 24H2. Sorry. Pretty identical looking set of features. So I think you could expect that again next month, right, in Patch Tuesday. Okay. That's most of it. I think that was pretty quick.
Wow. I didn't expect that.
You know what I was thinking about this list of features is that this is a good set of tools to mature when you're not sure if you're going to have a screen and a keyboard. Like I immediately start thinking about how do you make augmented reality come true? It's these interfaces.
Oh.
Yeah, text. It talks to you, you talk to it.
Yeah. You don't need to find things. You want it to snip and extract for you. Like what I've noticed in all those descriptions there is I don't need a mouse. I don't even I need to see something, but I don't really need a screen.
Yeah.
Like now think of this from the perspective of I'm looking through a pair of glasses with a camera on it at something else and saying, snip that text for me.
Right. That's right. Yeah. This is, it's funny. I don't know, it feels like it's been 10 years, but in the couple of years now that we've been talking about this in the post Copilot announcement or whatever, I keep bringing up this notion of orchestration, right? This is my, I don't know, totem or something, but
orchestration. You need a swelling orchestra every time you say that.
Yeah. I feel like there's platform level stuff, for lack of a better term, super technical term for it, that needs to happen for Windows, and then the apps that run in Windows to, in a sophisticated manner, be controlled by AI. Because you can do screen scrape type stuff, and we you see some of that obviously, but real time actual control. This is going to come up in the AI section as well, because we're starting to see AI integrating with different AIs, integrating with different, productivity stacks, if that makes sense. Copilot plus Microsoft 365 is pretty obvious, but what about like Anthropic plus Microsoft 365? It's not a thing yet, but it will be, right? I mean, this stuff is all coming. So there's a programmability or an extensibility or an automation ability, or whatever, that has to occur in these platforms and, Windows in this case. But across, it's not just Windows, right? Because agents are going to have to integrate with online services as well. It's the same thing. For this stuff to make sense, for what Richard just described, to really make sense, everything that we interact with in a kind of a secondhand way, right, through an agent or an AI or whatever, has to support that capability, right, for it to work well.
Yeah. Now you have to get the feature set done, but here now you found a way to start maturing this feature set in the existing set of interfaces.
Yeah.
And once it gets to a certain point, you can now talk about other interfaces.
Yeah. I mean, we've said this a bunch, but like Copilot is a good name because in this current era, you have these tools which are traditional, which we're all very used to, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever. And Copilot is this thing that kind of sits over there and works with you. You might ask it questions. You might say, hey, could you do something with this document? But those tools either have to evolve or be replaced with something that's more.
Well, goodness knows you can't actually sort out the control panel, so better to do this.
Yes, that's right. Yep, we can't even get dark mode on a window that File Explorer displays, but we're going to nail it with AI.
Yeah, no, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. I know it'll be fine.
I know. I have so much.
Just add another layer on top to fix everything.
Yes. Yeah, we get Sinofsky team to come back to one of those architectural diagrams where it's like Windows is this little line at the bottom and this is AI.
Yeah, and
it's like that's the stack. And you're like,
I was thinking more along, you just lay in shag carpet over the asbestos tiles, right?
Yeah, and some future generation will pull this thing up and be like, oh my God, there were beautiful wood floors down here. What did they do? Why did they do that? Or someone painted.
I've never heard
floor.
the Win32 API referred to as a beautiful wood floor before, but okay.
Well, the Win API is a disaster. No, there's stuff below that though. It's gross and it's slimy, but it's there.
Thunking is your friend. Dave Cutler told me so.
Dave Cutler was right about everything. Just ask him.
It is.
So, yeah, I was just because you mentioned it. Someone asked me about this. That Dave Plummer we were talking about that does these videos. I love him. I subscribe. I watch every video he makes. But he did one on Longhorn, and I don't know if we talked about this at all. But I very much wanted to watch this. I was super excited when I saw it. I was like, I'm going to learn something new here. And I didn't learn anything new. It turns out he left Microsoft in 2003, which is when this heated up. And his stories are as secondhand as mine. And this is not a criticism. I just, because of who he is and what he does, I was like, oh my God, there's going to be some inside information. But, as a Cutler acolyte, he was, of course, kind of crapping on the other parts of Microsoft because that's what Cutler did. These other people were children; they couldn't program correctly.
No,
everything they did was
he was
terrible.
very much of the we don't have to deal with bugs because we don't write bugs mentality.
That's right. When, it's the guy, the prince from The Princess Bride, who says, if I'm wrong, and I'm never wrong, like he kind of goes from there, right? So, but he is Cutler, right? Cutler's a genius, and
he and his immediate acolytes could actually qualify for that.
Mark Lakowski falls into this category. These guys who were just absolute geniuses. So Dave Plummer is a really smart guy, but he wasn't in the upper echelon of that part of the company, right? So I can handle Dave Cutler crapping on Jim Alchin or Longhorn, which he called shorter and hilarious. It's okay. But for someone else like Dave Plummer to just sort of ride along and do the same thing, it's like, you might want to.
You're not that guy. Sorry,
you're not. You're just not. You're not there, and it's and you're not right about everything. It's just it was a little tough, but anywho, I'm not sure why I got off on that.
Still goes to the office, and he's in his 80s.
And he's amazing. He is a force of nature.
He's a force of nature.
If he ever does pass away, he will disappear into a cloud of sparkles, and there will be just like a black mark on the ground. No one will
arguably hit like Arthur C. Clarke. He will just go back to his original timeline.
Yes, yes, where VMS actually made sense, and we live in a different world. Yeah. Okay, I actually forget why I went off on that little Longhorn story, but there was a reason. I don't know. There were reasons. So
we're bringing all the Windows stories together, but
I know. Anyway, as I get old, they all kind of just blend together. So I transfer from time to time and space to space. Just two more Windows related stories. So Microsoft Edge, remember when they were still using their own rendering engine? They used to do these performance comparisons. They put the computers next to each other, runtime, things in. We used to get that a lot. We don't get that anymore because now they're using Chromium, right? So,
right. What's the point?
Yeah, well, one of the points is that when Microsoft makes changes to the rendering engine, they can just do it for Edge, so they could do their own thing. But they also kind of feed back into Chromium. They did that thing with the text display only on Windows because it relies on Windows technology. But the text rendering across all Chromium browsers now is better because Microsoft contributed to that. But I guess they're still doing literal web rendering performance work outside of Chromium, although they suggest some of the stuff will go back because they've done that in the past as well. And I guess in the latest version of Edge, if you haven't updated your browser or it didn't update for you, you should do that. Depending on
updates the browser, it just sort of happens. Right?
Just sort of happens. Yeah, it will. Yeah, it annoys you when it happens, but apparently it's noticeably faster web rendering. So 9%. I'm not saying is a huge number, but then again, it is 2025.
Right.
It's interesting that you can get that kind of a performance gain. And of course, they've been doing the performance.
Yeah, at some point, it's an indictment. Really? Now you find 10%?
That's now. Okay. So and this is my problem one of my problems with these Apple events every year where they're like, iOS 19 is 47%, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, how awful was the thing you shipped last year that you could possibly you don't get big double-digit gains every year. What's going on? But I guess they do. So,
is it only Edge or is this a Chromium speed up?
Right now, it's only Edge. But they did say that
it might be in a branch.
They should contribute it back, though, right?
They do.
They
do.
Yeah.
I mean, so the quote that they provided about this was our unique approach and focus to optimizing speed and the code changes we continuously make to Edge and to the Chromium rendering engine within it.
Good.
Have led to real-world performance improvements when using the browser and a variety of hardware.
Say they're contributing.
They don't say this particular feature, but they do. But they have. So my guess is this will in fact feedback because it will. They've been pretty good about that.
There's some incentive for them not to, right? If they don't contribute it back, then you might not use Chrome. You might use Edge.
Yeah, but then you left on the fork, and now you're racing everybody.
Yeah,
else.
you want to be careful with that.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I agree. It's bad form.
If you're suggesting.
The new version of .NET always has big performance improvements that are measurable.
That's another one. That's right. Yep. Yeah. Every time.
But I should point out that the Chromium engine's based on the Blink engine's based on KHTML, and I don't think Google contributes.
You don't think there's a lot going on with?
No. I mean, that's what you do. You fork it and then
the KDE desktop environment in Linux has benefited greatly from Google's work.
Somehow I doubt it, but
you never know.
Could be wrong. I mean, you never know.
I don't know. I've never heard that, but it could be.
Yeah.
And then this one's just kind of fun. So there is something called the National Recording Registry that's part of the U.S. Library of Congress. That'll be the next part of our government that gets axed once they find out it still exists. But they have, as they do every year, they induct songs, albums, artists, all kinds of things into this. So it goes into the Library of Congress. It's there. So this particular one is Happy Trails by Roy Rogers, the Chicago album, the Chicago Transit Authority, Helen Reddy, Steve Miller Band, Tracy Chapman, Celine Dion, all kinds of stuff. Hello Dummy, the comedy album by Don Rickles from 1968 is in there.
That's in the Library of Congress. Wow.
There are two Microsoft-related things in here, one of which I found immediately confusing, but then cleared it up. The first one is the what they call the Windows Reboot chime from Windows 95, which was
this one?
No, that's a donkey braying. I don't know what that was. That bloom, bloom, bloom. That pleasant sound, right? So Brian Eno is he makes a lot of atmosphere doing this.
I love the little piano, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's pretty. Yeah,
and then they redid it again in Vista, and I'm sure they've redone it several times since then, but nobody cares anymore. But at that time, this was a big deal, so that was kind of a nice. That was nice.
These were all distraction tools for the fact that you were waiting to boot up.
That one.
Yeah. Well, they're all of there's a family of sounds that
I found this is a YouTube channel, Evolution of All Windows Startup and Shutdown Sounds. Love it.
What's the guy? Robert Fripp was the guy who did the Windows Vista sounds.
Frippertronics.
From Crimson.
Yeah. King Crimson.
King Crimson, thank you.
Yeah. He and Eno are buddies.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the other Microsoft-related item that made it into the National Registry, or the National Recording Registry, is the soundtrack album for the game Minecraft.
Wow.
So when I saw Minecraft soundtrack, I thought, you don't mean the movie that just came out.
No,
right?
No.
But no, I guess there was a 2011.
In Minecraft, you have records that you could put on there's music. Yeah.
But if you go to Spotify or whatever service and search for Minecraft soundtrack, you will find this. And a lot of it is made by, I think it's C418 or something. But it's called the theme song is Minecraft Volume Alpha.
Oh man, this brings me back. I hear this. I feel like I'm in the mines.
This is a little bit like a Brian Eno kind of thing, isn't it? It's like
totally.
But there's a whole, there's an album of these songs. And so
now I can play it because it's in the Library of Congress.
That's right. Honestly, to me, it almost sounds of the same era as the Windows 95 music or theme.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, it's certainly the same.
This one's called Wet Hands. It's very relaxing. It's one of the reasons I actually like Minecraft, because it's very relaxing.
Yeah, I told the story a million times, but I walked into my son's room one day and he wasn't playing like an action game. He was playing something that looked weird to me. And I was like, what the hell is this? And he says, this is Minecraft. I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, you build things. And I was like, okay.
It's the best.
And then this thing floated by in this space or whatever. And he goes, that's my cousin Harrison. He just now works in security, and
Harrison's in there too, huh? So he had a little server
they were playing, they were doing something together, and
that's so cool.
I was just like, carry on, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Everything is good.
Oh, it's the best. I've spent many hundreds of hours in Minecraft.
Yeah,
building crap.
Well, I hope you enjoy the movie, Leo. It looks ridiculous.
We have a TWIP Minecraft server. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Club members have access.
They never did this, but I, to this day, I mean, the best HoloLens demo I ever got was that first one where they did Minecraft in the room we were in. So the table had like this Minecraft castle on it, but the wall was a Minecraft wall, looked like Minecraft. And it was the real room, but it was all on the stuff, and the wall broke open, the bricks came out, and these Minecraft bats came flying out toward it, and everyone was like, like it kind of went right at you. And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. And we never did anything with that. But.
No, never shipped it. Do you know how many Minecraft players owned a HoloLens headset?
Yeah.
0. Not counting employees of Microsoft? 0. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Oh man, I always wanted that. I would almost go out and buy, a Vision Pro or whatever to do that.
The list of things that almost happened with Minecraft is really interesting because remember they were going to do like a really realistic graphics thing, but there was something, I think it might have been called Minecraft Live. They demonstrated it on stage. So
there was a game you could go around like
it was
Pokemon.
Around briefly. Like you could go in the real world and Minecraft would be there.
I used to play it. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember the demo on stage because they were on stage. It looked like a chasm opened in front of them or something. Then it went down into the ground. And I was like, oh yeah. Like you could tell like this is.
It was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, this type of stuff.
And it would be persistent. It was using that Azure location technology.
Okay. Yeah.
Azure Places
probably,
or whatever they call it.
I'm sure this was inspired by, what was that mobile game you used to play this all the time?
It was Pokemon Go.
Pokemon
That's
Go,
why I picked it up because I thought, this will be great.
This will be the
Pokemon
next.
Go for Minecraft.
Yeah.
And they killed it like almost like months later. They didn't.
Well, these days, if you don't get 100 million users in 2 months, it's just not important.
It's really true.
There might have been, I don't remember if there was an excuse or reason. I don't know. Maybe there were people walking off of piers. It was bad enough like Apple Maps debuted and people drive in the middle of the desert because there were no roads there. Like imagine you're walking around in the real world. I mean, you could walk into walls, get hit by cars.
I'm kind of sad Pokemon, which was a kind of a Google spin-off, Niantic. The guys at Niantic were the Google Maps guys. And they just sold out for billions of dollars to the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Fund. So the Saudis now own Pokemon. Pokemon Go.
I was an Ingress player for a while.
Ingress was their predecessor, yes.
That was the predecessor, yeah.
I loved Ingress. It was too complicated for normal people.
Well, it was,
But for us, it was great.
And it became a game where it was very much an insider's game.
But you had to walk. The thing is, you had to get, and this was I loved about Pokemon too, was you had to get out and do it. You had to walk around.
That's like saying, this is the best steak I've ever had in my life. I mean, you'd hate it. You're more of a franchise guy, but
you're not. Yeah,
this was
you're not gonna like
this. This is if you just had my level
not
of
for
taste,
you, Paul. No AI in it. I'm sorry, A1 on
peasants. Goodness knows.
Yeah.
HP sauce, as we call it.
HP sauce. Ladies and gentlemen, let's pause for a moment to remember Steve and the Minecraft movie, which, as it currently stands, is the #1 movie in all of the world.
It will always be #1 in my heart, and I wish it would die in a fire. I don't understand why this movie's popular.
Jack Black pays Steve. That's all you need to know.
That is all I need to know. I agree. That was my primary reason for ignoring it. He's a good-looking guy.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to stream it. I'm not going to a movie theater ever again. But
it'll be fine on an airplane.
Exactly. Richard has his airplane movies. I have my
Minecraft movie soundtrack. Take a nap. You'd be better off.
So relaxing. So relaxing. I'm going to download Minecraft and show you the Twit build. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is there anything in it like one of the promises of Doom for a little while was that people would make maps of real places and you could play, right?
The Brick House Studios are in it.
Yeah. Okay. See, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that kind of thing.
It started with Chad Johnson, OMG Craft.
Yeah.
They built that for years. The 3 or 4, maybe 5 people were really devoted. And then I saved it. We had a copy of it. And we put it back up on the server. And then I don't want to run the server out of my house anymore. So, well, only because I need all the upstream bandwidth I can get. This was back in the studio where we had so much upstream bandwidth. So, very kind fella in our club, whose name escapes me. I'm trying to remember his name. But anyway,
someone's hosting.
Lion Admiral 1981. Lion Admiral 1981 took it over, and he's running it. So if you want to get into our Minecraft server, we have a survival server that's set to like super tough too. Just join the club, $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows, and access to the Minecraft server.
Wow.
See, I should mention that more.
I know. I'm surprised this isn't more of a perk mention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go into the Let's Play channel in our Discord and say, add me, because you do have to get whitelisted. All right, let's pause and come back. Much more of Windows Weekly on the horizon. But as soon as it gets here, we'll let you know. But
bad omen. What's that on the horizon?
It's on the horizon. It's at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, that's not going to be good.
First,
might be a train.
First, a word from our sponsor, the wonderful folks at 1Password. Here's a question for you from 1Password. Do your end users always work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question. They call it Extended Access Management. 1Password, Extended Access Management, helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are, well, the actual straightest line from point A to point B. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but many security problems occur on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control and ensures that every user credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password is ISO 27001 certified with regular third-party audits. It exceeds the standards set by various authorities and is a leader in security. It's security for the way we work today. And it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Secure every app, every device, every identity, even the unmanaged ones at 1password.com/Windows Weekly. By the way, all lowercase. 1password.com/Windows Weekly. Thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. You support us when you go to that address, 1password.com/Windows Weekly, all lowercase. On we go with the show.
I've lost.
Huh?
I'm sorry. No, God, I'm sorry.
No, please. I'm just going to say to you, what's up in the hardware sphere?
What's up?
Yeah, some stuff.
What's that?
What I was going to say was I've kind of lost track of the history of this. You know, before the pandemic, Microsoft was working on these Surface Hub devices, right? Which are kind of
which were a hit.
Yeah, at the time when we were all going into businesses or meeting rooms together, and they were doing great.
Projectors and replacing a whiteboard, and doing it all in one.
Before this, they had, remember, it was like a Pixel Sense display, and now they use the term Pixel Sense to describe Surface PC displays.
I mean, the original Surface was that crazy table that Alex
the big table
made that didn't work on stage, right?
Right. Right. And was the type of thing a hotel or a casino would buy, but not the type of thing a person would buy, right? And so
it was broken the moment you installed it.
Yeah. Well, it was by design. It was fine.
I remember seeing them like on cruise ships. I saw them in hotels in Vegas.
Yeah. There were some cool demos for it. I'd like the return to the sit-down Pac-Man style machine where you could be across from someone and both, when you switch players, the screen was swapped so they could play or whatever. Kind of resembled that to me. But Surface Hub, the first version, 50-ish and 80-ish inch screens, I forget. Mm-hmm. But then right before the pandemic, they announced Surface Hub, I guess 2.
Yep.
And this is the one where it was like on an easel and you could string 3 of them together and have one big screen. It was going to be amazing. And then it was, the pandemic. So
then the world ended. Yeah.
Yeah. So tied to this, I sort of forget the OSs, but the original Surface Hub had like a Teams edition of Windows 10, I would imagine. And then, of course, in time, they had a Windows-based OS. I think it was like Surface OS or whatever that they were going to use as they kind of evolve these things. But the original Surface Hub is now, 10 years old. So in October, it's going end of life, and there's no upgrade for it. You can't put Linux on it. There's no real plans for this thing. So
I don't imagine it just bursts into flames either. It's just going to get no updates. Yeah,
right. I mean, but as software evolves, and we'll see. I mean, it's we'll see what happens. But I suppose given the nature of this device, maybe it's not as big of a problem as say with a PC. But it's interesting. It's been that long. I mean, to me, it's just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, the probable thing for a 2015 Surface Hub is it hasn't been turned on in 3 years.
Yeah. Well,
Possibly
now that people are
5
returning to the office is now a thing. It's the hot new trend in offices, actually using the office.
The other thing the pandemic did is it gave everybody a camera rig and experience with sharing software. Like now the question is, do you need to go into the meeting room?
Yeah. Well, I think being in person is the point of this return to office thing, actually. So maybe, I mean,
which also begs the question, what do you need that thing for? Because that was always about somebody's not in the office and others are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on the business, there will probably still be people around in the office. But if that's not the case, it's still a big display, right? I mean, I suppose you could just use it as a display or whatever. Yeah. Remote your display to it.
The other thing about thinking about 2015 is like, think about how much better camera gear is, or the 3D sensors. Like if you could afford all those things in the first place, and they were not cheap, you can afford, you're either out of business and you don't care, or you want a new one anyway.
I'm going to forget the details of this too, because again, pre-pandemic, and it just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. But the original like Surface Hub 2, 2S, whatever they were called, we got a really good it was one of the last things I did before the pandemic, I think. But they did these in-person demos where these things actually had the USB-C ports all around the edges, and you could plug in like a webcam. If it was oriented this way, you could pop it up on the top, and they had lots of sensors and all that kind of stuff. And they would do palm rejection when you were writing on the screen, and they get multiple people writing on the screen at the same time, et cetera, et cetera. It's cool stuff, but they, like I said, the OSs have evolved. Surface Hub 2S is from 3-4 years later. I think it originally ran on the same Windows 10 Team version that the OG Surface Hub ran on, but you can migrate that to what's now called Teams Rooms for Windows. Whatever, I don't know. So there's still, this may be a business that kind of springs back to life for them just because of the
other thing is there's a ton of competitors now, right? There's all kinds of smart boards, near hub, Microsoft.
But Google killed theirs. Google killed theirs.
So they had a silly name. What was that thing called? It began with a J, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Jamboard.
Yeah, it was Jamboard. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so it was kind of like the Chrome OS version of this, that might meet a certain need too if they still made it. But this will always have a place, I think, in big enterprises and
But I think they also want to get it from a conventional vendor, right? Like Microsoft should get out.
I mean, like an actual display vendor. Yeah. What a thought. I mean, that's probably going to be a lot, and is today a lot more common, obviously. But
there you go. Surface Hub 3 85-inch with pens and smart camera, $32,000.
Yeah.
Jeez, forget it.
The original one, I think, was just north of 20 when they announced. Maybe it was 18 at first, then it went above 20. But even
so they figured, it's enterprises. They pay $10,000 for their Cisco Zoom room, so they'll pay.
I don't think it was like
this.
I don't think it was like a cynical like how much could we charge? It
really did cost that much.
I think they were expensive.
85-inch screens are big,
expensive. And, I mean, like even Surface PCs, like the Surface Studio. Everyone sees that and says, yeah, okay, but I just want the screen. And it's like, okay, well, the PC is $3,500. Just the screen is going to be $3,300. It's the most expensive component by far. It's more expensive than all of the other components. Like it's really expensive.
You spend that much money though. You hate to hear it's at its end of life.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't have like a 4 or 5 year period where you couldn't even use it, so it's fine. What are you going to
get back to? Like, why would you buy one of these when everybody has a camera and a screen and sharing software and it's
turned out to be
kind of an obsolete concept now.
Yeah,
so it beautifully solved a problem that was becoming irrelevant.
That's right. That's the Microsoft story in a nutshell. So I guess, I don't know.
No, it was a boardroom piece. It was cooler than a projector, right? It was you wanted that Tony Stark sort of interactive effect.
Yeah.
One would argue now you should go the meta way and everybody puts on a
we should all sit in the same room with Boba Fett helmets on our heads and
Horizon World, because that's not dystopic at all.
Oh, what a world.
Someday I can't wait to. We'll be sitting on the couch watching a movie. My wife and I, or you and your wife, or whatever, and you won't even. You'll be talking through a microphone. You'll actually get up to go to the bathroom and be like, "Oh, I forgot what you looked like. What happened,
honey? I'm over here, honey. I'm on the couch."
Yeah. I am your father.
We're still in a period where
gross.
startups get too much money, right? Where they're getting an A round of $25 million. And so consistently, I have a CEO coming at me going, how do I build the ultimate boardroom? Like, we're going to go get this exotic wood table and so forth. But the hardware, like, I need it to be special.
Yeah.
And,
what does Putin use? Because that looks pretty cool.
I would imagine that in those scenarios, whatever he's using gets updated every 2 weeks. The problem is they spend all this money on something and then you want to use it for years, as you would, and it's out of date. It's pretty quick. But that's technology. I'm not telling you.
Have it.
Yeah.
Intel has made their first major move under their new CEO. This one's kind of interesting. They sold 51% stake, so a majority stake, in Altera, which is their field gate programmable array business that they bought for a lot more money than it's worth now, several years ago. Altera was actually founded in 1983, which is pretty amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Went public in 1988. Intel acquired it in 2015 for $16.7 million, based on a 51% stake worth $4.46 billion. We're saying that this thing is now worth about $8.75 billion.
Nice.
So Intel is once again has the touch of Midas to them, but these components are super important, and today they're used in cloud data centers. So Intel still owns the other 49%. They're going to remove those earnings from their earnings report, but they still have an ownership stake, and they'll still, be able to take advantage of. I think they did some sort of what are those? I forgot the name of the chips. Not the mainstream chips for PCs, but the high-end chips, which were for workstations and now are for data center. They integrate with these type of chips, so you have like a standard powerful Intel CPU that is kind of monolithic, but it could be attached to these. It's a weird thing to say, like what do you call these things? Field array or field programmable.
Oh, FPGAs.
Yeah, FPGA. It's weird. We need a better term for this, but
field programmable gate array.
Yeah,
not Gatorade.
No,
Gatorade. By the way, here's Putin's setup. I just thought you might want to, for Richard, when they ask you next time, just
yikes.
Tell them this is what you need.
That's unimpressive. Yeah. Also, is he in a Hilton? What is this?
Yeah. It looks like he's in. Jeez. You're right, a Hilton ballroom. That's pretty funny. There's a couple of computers under the table.
He calls down and he's like, I plugged my Ethernet cable into the port and it's not doing anything. Yeah, it's a Hilton. That's how it works. It doesn't.
It's a work. Hilton.
Yeah.
You have the worst Wi-Fi on earth. You should attach to it.
That's pretty funny. You're right. It looks like a hotel ballroom.
This is so weird looking now.
Who knows?
Okay. I don't know why this bothers me so much, but when Steve Jobs announced the iPad in 2010, he positioned it as this thing that was going to sit between a phone and a PC. And the way he said it was something like, the question has arisen, as if it came up out of a swamp like steam.
It emerged.
It's like, the question has arisen. Is there another device we could sell to everybody? Oh, yes.
Really,
the answer is
yes.
Question. But Steve Jobs was very upset with the reaction to the first iPad because this is when we started talking about consumption devices, right? This is a term we never really used before. And he had this list of things that it was better than PCs or phones at the time, email, web browsing, reading, blah, 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 whatever, most of which are consumption activities. And so for the second iPad, he said, this is the post-PC era. We make most of our money on post-PC devices. This is the future of the computer. And they updated, their iWork apps at the time, and they made sure there were a bunch of third-party kind of creation apps. But, iPads today are still kind of consumption devices for the most part. Mm-hmm. I know they have iPad Pro, but the iPad OS is limited dramatically and on purpose not to harm Mac sales. But now that they have iPad Pros that cost over $1,000.
Oh, my setup costs more than an Apple laptop.
Yeah, so you could throw together an iPad Air or Pro of either size screen with their keyboard and their pen, and that thing costs more than a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
So the question has arisen, Leo, is there room for iPad OS to improve so that it actually could work as well as a computer? And my answer to that for a couple of years now has been yes, but they haven't done it. So every year WWDC rolls around. Every year I'm like, maybe this is the year. Maybe they're going to do it. You know, the iPad Pro, any iPad is so limited that if you're using Final Cut Pro, whatever app it is, to render some video and you get an email and you switch to mail, it stops rendering. You know, it has the most powerful processor imaginable. It's the same thing they use in their computers. I mean, I know there are more powerful versions of the chip, but this little thin, wonderful portable device could be so much more than it is. And now Mark Gurman has a report that they might actually be doing it this year. He's very vague, but he says they're going to, part of this stuff they're going to announce in 2 months is improvements to iPad OS to make it more like the Mac.
Yeah, multitasking, things like that.
God forbid, you know. So I last year said, look, you forked iOS into iPad OS, fork it again into iPad OS Pro, and put that stuff, make it for Pro, you know, iPad Pro only, or maybe iPad Air and Pro, whatever. That's fine. Most people who buy a normal iPad or a mini are using it to watch movies and read books and play games. Like, you don't have to do that stuff over there. But if you're going to spend as much or more on an iPad as you would on a MacBook Air, you know, this is overdue. So supposedly it's happening. I guess we'll see. I don't know.
I'll be the test bed for this. It's funny. I
want to use this so bad.
Yeah. Why?
Just because this is the dream, right? So this is the one thing that can do everything.
Right.
It's never been done effectively. Maybe there are exceptions, but you know, a folding iPhone or phone that could turn into a small tablet, it gets there. But one device that you travel with, where you attach a keyboard and you work like normally, like you would on a laptop. But then you take that thing off and you can watch, you know, play games, or you can do whatever you want without that stuff on it. Cool. And then the battery life is amazing, right?
Yeah,
and,
it's all day for sure. Yeah.
This is, you know, this Apple's the one company I think could get this right. You can take something complicated by Windows, like Windows, and chop off parts and try to get something simpler, which they technically did for iOS. I get that. But now you have iOS. It gets more and more sophisticated every year. Like, it just needs a couple of things, and then you get the stuff that's important, but you don't get any of the legacy deadwood. And so there's I don't know. This is kind of a dream. We'll see. I mean, they've never done it, you know, so far, and I think it's artificially limited at this point. But
there's an interesting change in the user base at this point, where people use their iPhones maybe to the exclusion of everything else. Like that's their main,
their primary compute device.
Yep.
And so they're very used to the interface, the applications, the way it works. Maybe it makes sense for Apple to say, okay, we're going to embrace this change in how people
I don't know why they're hesitating.
I don't. Well, they want
a customer you've already got on a Mac and move them to an iPad. Like, why are you sad?
It's the same price.
Well,
it's the same customer.
That was kind of my point. Once the prices of the iPads rose to the point where they were the same or more, the excuse for not doing it goes away.
I'll be very interested. I mean, they put the M4 in the iPad Pro before.
That's what I mean. Like, you got to be. I know, incredible. So I feel like if Steve Jobs had not passed away, because remember, so the iPad 2 was 2011. He was actually out on hiatus because of health reasons. Right. Came back to do the presentation. It was so important to him. They did that special cover that they still use, which is amazing. You can look, I mean, I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but it took them a very long time. So he passed away that year. He passed away that October. That's so I feel like if he had stuck around, they would have pushed the iPad as the future of computing. I really think he was very hot on this post-PC thing.
Right.
Tim Cook is not a visionary. He is a bean counter. I think he looked at this and said, you know, what would be better than replacing the Mac is selling people both. So I'm projecting here. I don't know that this conversation ever occurred.
We talk about this all the time on Mac Break Weekly.
I bet.
We don't know. It's inconceivable.
It doesn't. I don't think that word means what you think it means. But I don't remember the dates. I'm not I'm not the big Apple guy, but over time they introduced a keyboard cover that didn't have a touchpad on it. It was like, well, you'll touch the screen, but we also have this stupid Apple Pencil, the thing Steve Jobs made fun of and said no one will ever want. And then they eventually added the trackpad with the support, and but it didn't have keyboard shortcuts, or it didn't have, it was always a little bit limited. And then just the OS now is limited with background tasks and specific multitasking features, whatever.
I do think, though, that a generation that's grown up on the iPhone might completely embrace it and say,
plus,
fine.
Once they do their folding devices,
then you can carry it, and it's
look, I've tried every version. We all have, right? I know you guys have both done this. Like back when I think this might have been a Sony or a Palm TX, or I remember what the thing was, a little Palm device, right? One of the later ones, as they got kind of nice. Little fold-out keyboard, little thing you kind of stick it on there. I'm on a flight typing my 1,000-word editorial about whatever. I'm living the dream. I'm flying through space like Thor. And then there's a little boop boop in the plane, and the little Palm thing went boop, and lost the connection, lost everything I wrote. It's gone. So, I've tried. Like we talk about, Jerry Purnell used to love those little Windows CE handheld PC things. That was the size and shape of a mobile keyboard. So the screen was like this, like a Hummer view outside. And, you hunch over it, you do whatever. Because I think there's a class of people, we used to call them knowledge workers or information workers, people who would travel for work, who, they want the latest thing possible, but they also want it to do as much as possible. And you try to...
I feel like a MacBook Air is pretty
The Air,
close.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's the definitive machine in that class.
Yeah.
And for a long time, literally the best computer in the world.
So my daughter...
you could julienne fries with it. It was so sharp.
My daughter just got the M4 version of the...
It's pretty spectacular.
MacBook Air.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason she wanted to know... She had a Surface Pro, I don't remember, 9 maybe. And she loved it. She liked the pen. She's a student, so she would, she drew and took notes and all that stuff like a kid would do, I guess. But this thing got like 2.5 hours of battery life. She was freaking her out. And I was like, well, you can get a new one of these, I guess. You could get the Snapdragon thing. That would be pretty good. But I'm like, I got to tell you, you get this, if you get a MacBook Air, it's gonna last forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so you're not going to think about carrying your charger with you because you don't work long enough to use up the battery.
It's incredible. So
you'll be home before.
No, she's probably exaggerating.
As a Windows guy to say that. That's
I last year I bought the M3 version, and I would say one of the big achievements of the Copilot Plus PC is they got into the ballpark of this. But if the MacBook Air I had, 15-inch, the bigger one, it's about 15 hours real world battery life, which is nuts. The best Snapdragon, 11-ish, 12 maybe 8 to 12, depending on the machine, depending on conditions, whatever. Fans, there's no fan in the MacBook Air. But the one she got, she has a smaller one, so it's probably, she says she gets 18 hours of battery life. I'm not sure how she rated that, but she's overjoyed by this.
It's what she does. It really is dependent. I don't get nearly what you were saying.
Yeah.
Because of what I do on my MacBook.
Yeah,
so it's just really...
Yeah. So I just, the normal way that I use computers, that's what I got on that computer. I was, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Most of the PCs I review get like 6 or 7 hours if you're lucky. But it also comes with, and Richard was talking about these cameras and sensors and stuff earlier. It has I think it's 8 megapixel. Yeah, just crisp, like just super nice camera. So the iPad Air I have is like an okay camera. It might even be 720p. I don't know what it is. It's like okay. It's nothing special. The screen's like tiny. It's really thin. But the one she has it's really nice.
Yeah.
Like you can really see the difference. So
Alex Lindsay, it's funny, has been saying that the microphones now on the laptop are so good that he often doesn't send a standalone microphone out in his Zoom
So that's
kits.
fascinating to me because I would say in the PC space, that's the one thing that's still lacking. They've totally caught up on webcams. That stuff's awesome. 5 megapixels, very common. You're starting to see 8 as well, but it's the microphones are garbage. And I do the same recording test every time to try to figure out some setting. There's all this AI nonsense you can do and whatever. And it just doesn't, it's not, I've never found one that's any good. You need a microphone. Like I would never do a podcast on the screen, the built-in one, unless, it was an emergency or whatever, an emergency podcast.
We wouldn't let you, to be honest.
No, you're very, you would very clearly be like, I don't know what you think you're using. It sounds like you're under the ocean or something, but this is not working. So no, it's very clear that it is not clear. This is what it is. Okay. Anyway, WWC, we'll see if they actually do it. I hope so. I'm curious. On the flip side of this equation, Google has laid off hundreds of employees in their newly consolidated platforms and devices division. This is where they brought together Android and Pixel into one group, along with, I don't know, Chrome and the Nest devices and Fitbit and all that stuff, right? So I don't think this is as bad as maybe it sounds at first glance, only because they knew, we all knew this was coming. They actually asked people to agree to leave because they were consolidating, and some number did, but I think these are the ones that didn't. The ones that did not. You fools! you could have taken the money and run.
Told you to leave.
They're like, they'll never let me off. I'm so important. What happened?
Yeah. Told you to leave, but you didn't. You wouldn't. We tried.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, Google's feels like a stumbling drunk. They just,
you
just really wonder what the heck's going on up there.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I started using the latest Pixel again, which I have to say I love.
It's a nice
the camera's wonderful. It's the most welcome thing in the world. Going back to that, like when you take a photo, it could be of anything. It could be like a drink in a bar or a sunset or whatever, and it's like, oh. You're like, every time you're like, oh my God, look at this. Like, I know I'm going to get used to it and stop doing this, but every time I like, look at this picture, look at this, look at that, look at this. It's amazing. But then you look at the battery life and you're like, oh yeah, they're right. There's a downside. And
nothing's free.
Yeah, nothing's free. And then the watch thing is, I want to physically harm it. I hate it so much. Part of it is just the normal notification thing where it's not set up properly yet, so it's notifying me too much about stuff. I know I'm going to get on top of that, and the way I'm going to do that is by turning off notifications entirely because it's driving me insane. But I swear to God, 5-6 times yesterday, this thing was like, and I don't mean it didn't go bing. It went like do or whatever, and I look. And there's nothing there. And I'm like, okay.
Just making noises.
No notification. There's nothing. I don't know why I did it. There were at least like 5 times. I cannot explain it.
It sounds like my rice cooker.
I can't. Oh Lord, we have if anyone has any Samsung appliances, they
God,
know
they
sing songs. They're like, your clothes are done. Like it's unbelievable. Like, so we have one at home and we have one here, and they sing different songs. They're, this one's a little more of a, a Mexican traditional, it's a trumpet sound. I don't know. It's just, it's Mexican, but
do they really, see, that's interesting. So
it's not
actually
country
specific.
It's definitely a different song. I can tell you that. I don't know why.
Interesting. What do they do in Canada? Do you have any Canadian?
Oh, Canada, your clothes are dry.
Yeah.
You can.
And the chicken dance. That's what we do.
The chicken dance. That would be good for here, actually. There's nothing here that couldn't be turned into something that makes a lot of noise. So that's just
it's the washer and the dryer and the rice cooker, and we've got a Japanese water boiler too that plays a song when the hot water is hot.
Wow. I used to have a Japanese water purifier that would have it was a rigmarole.
Yeah, this is like okay. So maybe this is an Asian thing, but it's like we want your electronics to make you happy.
Yeah.
Right. They were probably among the first to try to like personalize, make them into like people like things. Right. Like, even though it's a white square that doesn't look like a person. Although I guess I am a white square, depending on how you look at it. But yeah. So I think like these, like, they play little happy songs. So like, maybe it makes you happy. Whereas I'm always like, is there a button where I can turn this thing?
Yeah. Because we have a German dishwasher.
Can I gouge it with like
we have a German dishwasher, and all it does is make a very annoying beep.
Oh yeah, of course.
We're done. We are done.
It's true.
Come, open the dishwasher.
I was driving slowly through a town in some small town in Germany, and there was an old man with a cane, and he's walking like 2 miles per hour or whatever. And I'm like, obviously, I'm going to let this guy go, even though I could have just driven through the intersection. There's no one else there. And he looks at me and he like shook his cane at me, and I was like, go. And then he hit the car. He's like, no, you have the right of way. He didn't say it in English.
Follow the rules.
We're following the rules. And the rules are.
I appreciate that, because I hate it when you come to a stop sign and it's obviously this person's right of way.
Well,
and he says, it's okay, go ahead. And it's like, this is how accidents happen.
Yeah.
Follow the rules.
Listen, I live in Pennsylvania, so I have
There's
more
no rules.
I have there are rules that nobody follows. What I don't like is uncertainty. In Pennsylvania is all about uncertainty. It's like, are you going to go? Oh, you want to go? Why don't you go? Well, I'll go. Oh, no. Oh, you're going to go? And it's like, guys, it's a freaking intersection. Let's go. One of you
First person here goes first.
In Mexico, it's dystopian. It's a fight every time. It could be a person. It could be in a bike. It could be a car, bus. It doesn't matter. As long as you act aggressive and you always have the right of way.
There you go.
Yeah. It's very different. Anyway, Samsung.
Right away goes.
I don't know
who's most
what we're talking about anymore, but do. I don't know. There it is. Yeah, like watch. Remember
the rice cooker song?
Little watches used to do this, right? You would have like I don't know, what, Timex or some old-fashioned watch, and they would always play little songs. Why is there a song built into this thing? I can't even tell the time. What do you like?
But now it's Pavlovian. My mouth just started watering because the rice is done.
The rice is done.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. I hope
plays
that's true.
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star when it starts. And according to Wikipedia, it plays a tune called Amaryllis when it's done.
Okay.
Did Brian Eno do this music? Because that would bring this whole thing home.
That would bring us full circle.
That would be amazing.
Full circle. All right, let's take a break because the rice is done, and I got to.
Sounds like a Nintendo game.
A Zoji Rushi rice cooker is the best thing.
It's amazing
that ever happened to me. It's
wow.
You must have.
I'll let Lisa know you said that, but
she agrees. By the way, she said
nice. She's like, I'm a distant number two.
We both look at it. We go, it makes perfect rice every time. It's like you don't have to think about it.
You're moving to New Zealand. You're leaving the rice cooker.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
You can have the house. I just want the rice cooker.
I want the rice cooker. That's
you can have everything in it. I just want the rice cooker.
Yeah. All right, let's take a little break. You're watching Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. Wonderful to see you both in your native habitats for the time being. Our show today brought to you by US Cloud. Let me tell you, the name does not tell you exactly what they do. It sounds like a cloud service, right? No, it's the number one, and I mean it, the best Microsoft Unified Support replacement. Now, we've been talking about this for some time now. I hope you know about US Cloud, the global leader in third-party Microsoft support for enterprises. They support 50 of the Fortune 500. And there's three reasons. In my mind, there's three reasons. First of all, of course, it's a big money saver. Switching to US Cloud can save your business 30 to 50% over Microsoft Unified and Premier support. But it wouldn't be better if it was just cheaper, right? You want better support. Well, it is better, faster, twice as fast average time to resolution versus Microsoft. And it's better. They've got the best engineers. They actively recruit the smartest, best, most experienced engineers. So you're getting the best team working for you, faster time to resolution for less. But now they're going to live up to their name because there's another thing they do that I don't think Microsoft would ever do this. They save you money on Azure, right? They have, that is something Microsoft would be very happy that you continue to spend more on Azure every month. But US Cloud has a new offering. It's called their Azure Cost Optimization Services. I mean, honestly, when's the last time you evaluate your Azure usage? It grows on you, right? If it's been a while, you have some Azure sprawl, I'm sure, a little spread, little spend creep going on. But there's good news. Saving on Azure is easier than you think with US Cloud. They offer an 8-week Azure engagement. It's powered by VBox. In those 8 weeks, it will identify key opportunities to reduce costs across your entire Azure environment without reducing capability. You'll get expert guidance and access to those engineers I talked about, US Cloud senior engineers, an average of over 16 years with Microsoft products. And at the end of the 8 weeks, you get this beautiful interactive dashboard that will identify rebuild opportunities, downscale opportunities, unused resources. You can take that money and put it in the bank or continue to save. My suggestion, invest the savings in Azure into US Cloud's Microsoft support. That's what a few US Cloud customers do, and completely eliminate your unified spend. So you save again. Sam gave us a great testimonial. He's the technical operations manager at Bede Gaming, Bede, Bede Gaming. Of course, they use a lot of Azure. He gave US Cloud 5 stars. He said, quote, "We found some things that have been running for 3 years, which no one was checking. These VMs were, I don't know, 10 grand a month. Not a massive chunk in the grand scheme of how much we spend on Azure. But once we got to 40 or 50,000 a month, it really started to add up. Yeah, that would, wouldn't it?" It's simple. Stop overpaying for Azure. Stop buying more Azure than you need. Identify and eliminate Azure creep and boost your performance all in 8 weeks with US Cloud. Visit uscloud.com right now. You can book a call today. Find out how much your team can save. I'm telling you, these guys are the best. uscloud.com. Book a call today. Get faster, better Microsoft support for less. I mean, you can't lose. uscloud.com. And if they ask you, please do me a favor. Say, "Oh, yeah, I heard about you on Windows Weekly." Paul and Richard and Leo said it was great. uscloud.com. Thank you, US Cloud, for supporting this fine effort we call Windows Weekly. I'm going to go get a little rice. And now I wish I had some rice.
What is this?
Oh, yeah. I read an article by a woman who grew up in a Chinese family, and she said she bought these dried Chinese sausages, put 2 in the rice cooker when you cook the rice, and it flavors the whole thing. And then Doc Rock, who's from Hawaii, said, in Hawaii, what we do, get the zoji rushi, and when you have leftover piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken,
nice,
you put it in with the rice in the rice cooker, and it flavors the whole thing.
Oh, God.
Doesn't that sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
So when's the last time I had Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Well, that's the problem.
11.
I have it all the time.
Here, really?
But not here. It's terrible in Mexico, but I really like Kentucky Fried Chicken.
So I see here something that says "this just in," and then that's all it says. Is there breaking news?
There is. So Microsoft stopped making their own keyboards and mice and peripherals, right? Under their Microsoft brand. They still have some Surface stuff. But in doing that, they got rid of the keyboard I'm using right here. Like, I love this thing, the Sculpt ergonomic keyboard.
The Ergo keyboard,
right.
Yeah.
But in case, and Microsoft announced, in case it was going to bring these things back from the grave or whatever, and then it never happened, but it just happened. So the Sculpt ergonomic keyboard, or desktop set, I should say, is available from InCase, designed by Microsoft, right? It looks identical. In fact, let me see how identical it looks. It's so identical, it doesn't even have a Copilot key on it. It has it's the same like layout as the thing I'm looking at right now.
The Sculpt keyboard is a cult. Like, there are believers in this keyboard. They buy them whenever they find them. Buy as many as they can get. I
used to have 3 of them in a closet in a box.
You're one of the. You're in the cult.
Yep, I love it.
$80. That sounds like the same price, right? That's about what it was.
That's not the right one. This is
designed by Microsoft.
Yeah, that's a different one. I mean, there are other ones.
Oh, I see. There's a whole line of
there's a whole line of these things. So it's the Sculpt ergonomic desktop set. So it's keyboard, mouse, and $150, which was about the same price, I think. My only issue with it is that it was a proprietary USB-A dongle, and it still is.
Here it is. Here it is.
And I wish it was a /Bluetooth something. I thought it was going to be /Bluetooth, but whatever. I will buy one of these immediately.
It's wired only? Is that it?
No, it's wireless. It's just, but it uses a dongle.
Oh, that's silly.
Yep, but it works great.
This is it, right? $150.
Yep, that's it. I'm using it right now. Well, I'm using
it all.
Microsoft one, but yeah.
Everybody's one of the vintage ones.
I can't show this to you effectively, but I have a USB-A to C to A, like with a cable. So I put the dongle in the end of it, and it's stuck into the front of the Thunderbolt dock I use. And plus, it brings it closer to the keyboard and mouse, so there's less interference, whatever.
Yeah.
Nice. I love this thing. I love it so much. InCase makes.
I've had other InCase stuff. They make a lot of accessories.
Yeah, they're pretty well known. And actually, if you go to their Designed by Microsoft menu thing, which I think you did.
I did. They got a ton of stuff.
There's a bunch of stuff, and this was not the case fairly recently. So they had a couple of things, I think, for a while, but now it looks like they got a whole thing going. So you can get just the keyboard for $120.
They do have a Bluetooth keyboard, but it's a square regular everyday.
No, I don't. Yeah. I wish this thing. I thought they were going to update it. In fact, I thought part of the update was it was going to have the Copilot key. That was going to be one, right? And that it would be also Bluetooth. But I guess no, it's still the same. Whatever. It took long enough. I'm glad they're making it. It's better than, it's better than.
Get a bank a couple, like just.
Well, not at $150, but I'll definitely, if I ever thought these things were going away, which happened, yes, I did that before, and then I went through them. So,
no, it's the thing. It's
I
while they're still in stock,
to bring it here.
Need one.
Yeah. Yep.
Breaking news.
Samsung, you got a little song.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
And my clothes are dry.
And I guess this doesn't go. Okay. And yes, right. And your rice is done. Okay. So, Notion does this thing where there's a weird scroll bar thing over on the right, and I keep clicking it by mistake, and it scrolls all the way down to the bottom of the document.
Don't do that.
It's the first little bit of Okay. So AI, we can go through some of this pretty quickly, but
wait a minute. I gotta run. My clothes are dry. I'll be right back. This goes on for hours.
It's quite a song.
No, it's Samsung. It's Samsung, right?
More.
Is this a Samsung thing? Because they go on for a long. They go on for a long time. Yeah, no, it's like we got to get it all out. It's like we got it. We've already taken the clothes out of the dryer.
Yeah,
I know. I got to get through this.
Zone.
Just sorry. There's no way to.
It's an Austrian song called Die Forelle by Franz Schubert.
There you go.
That's why it's so long.
It's a complete aria.
It's the whole damn thing. I bet you we triggered a lot of people. Now, Anthony Nielsen says we're going to get a copyright takedown from Samsung. I don't think so.
on.
Really? If we get a ding for that, I'm going to be very
whatever
sad.
anyone thinks of the song, their stuff is pretty great, actually.
There's a reason
we buy it. I mean,
that's why I know the music. I got the thing.
Yeah, it works well.
Keeps drying my clothes.
All right, let's talk AI because this is dumb.
Yeah.
We need smart.
Over in the Apple part of the fence there, on the other side of that fence, a lot of hand wringing over Apple Intelligence, and they'll get it right eventually. Something, I don't know.
There was an article in the New York Times saying Apple is failing.
Well, this is that trip idiot. So I saw that. I'm like, I know who wrote this, and I was like, yep. So look. This is the richest company on earth. They're doing great.
They're back at the $3 trillion.
They're fine. They're going to be
only
okay.
Only $3 trillion.
There's been other articles too. They've reorged. They've moved people around. They're whatever. They'll get it right. But I guess the new thing is, so if you're in the developer beta stuff, you might have seen this, and I think there's a whole beta now. But iOS, iPadOS, macOS 18/15 point whatever 5. They're looking at actually improving Apple Intelligence by using on-device data about you.
About me,
but it's Apple, so they'll do this in an Apple safe, we respect your privacy kind of a way. But I think this is the little conceptual hurdle I think people need to get over with AI, other than the obvious, is it real or not kind of thing. But I've told this story before too. But this guy complained to me that. He enabled Cortana, and then it asked him to give him permission to look at his calendar and his contacts or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works.
How this works.
It can't do anything unless you tell it about yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to be even more true of AI. I mean, because there's so much more data. But yeah. So I think Apple wanted this to be the most closed system thing imaginable, but they're coming around to this notion that, look, you're going to have to. If you're going to use this thing, you're going to have to
trying to solve this a year after they said they had it solved.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they.
I mean, the normal Apple pattern here is when they announce it at WWDC, it's going to ship in 3 months. It's already working. We're just putting the finishing touches on it. They announced something they just didn't have. They even showed a demo of something apparently they didn't have.
Having sat through the Longhorn demo of 2003, I hear what you're saying.
Listen, I'm used to Microsoft presenting fiction. I am not used to this version of Apple, Tim Cook Apple, presenting fiction.
Okay, well, you're putting me in the awkward position of defending Tim Cook and Apple, which I have to say
everything about that.
I think maybe I just won't even do it. I feel like they were we knew from the beginning it wasn't going to be immediate, and then we learned over
felt
time
like they had to make an announcement, and they would get it figured out.
It would be,
and here we are staring the next WWDC in the face, and they still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, I would imagine whatever the specific announcements for this year's show are, that the central premise is going to be, we announce something and then we ship it in September. And that's the end of it. I think they're going to go for that.
They're not going to preview anything they can.
I don't think so, because it was not received well.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, it was not received well. Although, to be fair to Apple, with the exception of this conversational Siri nonsense, which, again, if you ever use Siri, I don't know what you thought was going to happen. I don't know what miracle you thought this was. But I think they've delivered by now everything they talked about, except for that one thing. I mean, it's fine. I don't think it's changed anyone's life, but
well, that's the question. The question we keep asking on MacBreak Weekly is: does it matter? Does Apple need? They made a mistake promoting something they couldn't deliver.
So
fine,
yeah.
But is anybody going to not buy an iPhone because Apple Intelligence is not that intelligent?
But but it may drag people away to other services, right? So Apple, there are two things Apple could do. They could just open up their OS entirely and allow third parties to integrate at various parts of the stack, which they don't want to do and aren't doing.
Not an Apple way, not at all.
Not their Apple thing. I mean, they don't like that. Or they could do what they did. But look, every time someone uses ChatGPT on an iPhone or Gemini or something, or, and maybe then I can pay for that. Oh, and you have this other thing I might want to use. I mean, you're moving over to a place where maybe the iPhone isn't the important thing anymore. And so I think from that perspective, they felt like they had to do it. The problem, I hate to use these kind of terms, but I think it's just lazy, but it's like table stakes at this point. They can't not have this because everyone else does.
Right.
So and I have to say, to their credit, doing it in this kind of Apple privacy respecting way, I think resonates with people, regardless of its efficacy or whatever. And I mean efficacy of AI, not efficacy of privacy protection.
Well, there's even some question that this deferential privacy thing they're using is not, it really, until it can be used safely and it can be used unsafely. It could be, it can leak information and it cannot leak information. And with Apple not really being forthright about how exactly they're doing it, it's unknown, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it sure sounds like there's an internal battle going on here too.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It didn't have. Different teams are working on different things, and and it's gone awry. It feels like a very Bomber-esque Microsoft moment, right?
The thing what this reminds me of is
Apple.
I think this was it. I think it was the year after Steve Jobs passed away, or if it wasn't, it was within a couple of years. They shipped the first version of Apple Maps, and it was a disaster. I just referenced this: the people would drive through a desert and there'd be no road or whatever. It wasn't very good. Now they've improved it since then, but Tim Cook went down to Scar Forrestal, who was responsible for that, and said, "You need to apologize." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." He says, "Well, then you're fired." And this time around, no one's getting fired. And I think maybe it's because the decision to do what they did at WWDC last year came from on high. I think this time Tim Cook's not going to fire himself. I mean, he may not have come up with this idea, but he okayed it. He was part of that decision.
There's some question about where John Giandrea ended up.
Yeah,
the guy who used to run Apple Intel. Yeah,
but he might be on the roof having lunch, if you know what I mean.
Sometimes, right? So, I think what will my guess, because this is what happens at all companies. This has happened at Apple too. You won't hear anything about him, and then one day you'll find out he has quietly left Apple.
Right.
And maybe he wanted to spend more time with his family. Maybe he wanted to become an VC guy or something, whatever it was.
He's moving on to brass band,
Yeah. Yep. Like Jim, is that a Jim Alchin reference? Is that what that was?
That's what that was.
You very nice. Okay. Very nice. Yeah. So whatever. Anyway.
He still has a title. He's a senior vice president of machine learning and AI strategy, but he doesn't have the role. He doesn't have the operational role anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they wanted to put it on someone who can actually ship, like the guy from Vision Pro. Yikes! I'm sure it'll be. I'm sure it'll be fine.
No, you're right.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
We're all fine.
So Adobe, and do I have the right link for this one? I do not. Oh yeah, I know I do. Good. So Adobe, I have to say, they've jumped in with 2 feet on this AI stuff. They've done it in an almost Apple-like way, in the sense that because they have this huge library of content that you can license legally and know that it's not taken from anybody or whatever, they've trained their models on that, and they indemnify their customers against any complaints about anything that's created with their AI. So that's amazing, right? And they did not announce too many things. Well, they didn't announce anything specific, but they just made an announcement ahead of the Max show. And I don't think Max is a show they have once a year. I think Max might be a show they have up to 2 to 3 times a year. But the next Max is being held in London in end of April, a couple of weeks ago, I guess. And they're going to discuss this in more detail. But they talked about how they were going to bring agentic capabilities across their products. So Acrobat, Express, and then all the Creative Cloud stuff, especially Photoshop and Premiere Pro. And I got to say, this feels really smart to me. These tools are complex. You have to be,
this
you
is
have
how
to really
you
use
sell
them.
yet another version.
Yeah, and it's also how you can expand your audience, because this will make these tools more accessible to less proficient.
Oh yeah,
professionals.
Dude, have you played with the podcast tools that Adobe has?
No,
they're astonishing. Well, the number one
over
thing
and above Audition, what else do they have?
Oh, the new podcast AI tools. Does a transcript of the text of the podcast, and then you edit the text and it edits the audio for you.
Okay. I love that. Yeah.
I was thinking, so Adobe, I in my brain, I always go right to Photoshop and then Premiere, but obviously Acrobat, PDF, that stuff is humongous. And they'll do all that, summarize, blah, 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 whatever, generative AI. But the idea, like I'll do things like just something. It's like the Excel example I use, where I use Excel once a year, right? So every once in a while, I have like big letters, and what I want is like a photo that's behind all of those letters, but not in the background, right? So it's only in the letters, and there's a name for that. There's a technique to do it, and it's complicated. And every time I have to do it, I have to look it up, and I never remember what it is. But the notion of speaking or typing or however you do it, and having it tell you, it's like the thing we were talking about in Windows or in Office, where in the beginning it will say, this is how you do it. And then with these agents, you'll say, I want this to happen, and it will just do it for you,
Yep.
That will make that kind of thing much more accessible. And it might make people who might not otherwise have paid for these products say, okay, actually now I can use this thing, whereas I think for a lot of people, they're overwhelming, or they're expensive, or both, or whatever it might be. Maybe this opens this up to more people. It's kind of interesting. So I'm curious. I'm kind of looking forward to.
And this is one of the dreams all along, right? Is making these tools easier to use.
Yeah. Yep. I think they'll do pretty good. Adobe, this has been like the one non-dramatic AI, thing happening. Like generative AI is controversial.
For a long time, I just felt like Adobe was a place where software went to die. But
yes.
But they've hung on to a few pieces, and they've, the ones that make them enough money, and then they switched over to cloud, not without some resentment.
How anything related to PDF is still a business is unbelievable to me. But let me see if I can find this number. Adobe Acrobat, 3 trillion PDF files in circulation, 650 million active users. What?
There's also a dozen other editors for PDF and so forth. Like, the format's not going anywhere. Right. I don't know how much Adobe makes on it, but at least it's a gateway drug into their creative cloud.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty good somehow. But yeah, it's amazing to me. It's been a week, so obviously there were 18 OpenAI announcements. I'm not going to even try to go through all these, but they've announced, by my count, at least 5 models since we last talked.
Jeez.
They're going to retire GPT-4, soon. They have 4.1 models. They have 03 and 04 mini models now. If you are a user, even a free user, you have an image library. So if you used ChatGPT, which used to be just that standalone tool, DALL-E, right?
Right.
Yeah. But you can do it just in ChatGPT now, I guess. It will actually store your image library so you can go reference the things you've done in the past, which to me sounds like Microsoft Designer already does that. There are rumors that OpenAI is going to create a social network now. Because I don't know why. Okay. And then I referenced this earlier in the show, and Brad had a really good saying for this that I reference again later in the show, called it's something like AI is removing the moat. And what he meant was that AI is what's going to bring together all these disparate ecosystems where you can kind of mix and match and do whatever you want. So in this case, Cloud or Anthropic announced that their cloud models now integrate with Google Workspace. And what that means is you can ground this thing on your data, your work data as a company. And of course, it's all the permissions and all the stuff you would expect there. But you can now ask it questions about the document library that you have associated with Google Docs, the emails that you've sent, the schedule. This expanded out in every direction imaginable, meaning every AI, every email, every calendar, every set of documents that's in the cloud storage, wherever you know what I mean? Makes
Recall look like nothing at all.
It takes screenshots. It's fun. I don't know. What's your problem, man? It's cool. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
I'm also thinking about this GPT-4 thing and thinking they want to retire that to save themselves money. Like really, GPT-4 looks like it was the peak of the
inefficient AI,
inefficient giant, just grab as much land as you can kind of mindset. And now it's tuning and processing efficiency and organization.
But here's the question: is it getting better, or is it just differentiating and changing? Is it actually getting?
How do you
smarter?
measure better?
Well, I know.
What is better?
On the flowers for Algernon scale, are they still on the upward side of the slope? Yeah. Or have they?
They're not getting dumber.
Yeah. So
but they're getting more ubiquitous. They're doing more things.
I think I said this before, but to me, one of the big successes of OpenAI and ChatGPT specifically is how ubiquitous it is. I going back in time, I would rate, we're in the industry, so we have kind of a skewed view of where things are, because we see things early and we use things that maybe aren't quite mainstream. But I remember a friend of mine asked me if he should get an iPod. And this was, 3-4 years in, and it was like, wow, okay, I guess this is hit this is normal. Like, he loves music, tapes and CDs and cars and stuff. It was like, I think I want to get one of these. He's like, do you recommend this? I was like, yeah, these things are great. The number of normal people I know, meaning non-technical, not in the industry, who use ChatGPT and actually pay for it is kind of astonishing to me. It just comes up.
Lisa asked me, can it do text now and images? And I said, yeah. It can do text now and images. I said, let me make an action figure for you, Lisa.
Yes.
And,
right. Oh, nice.
Yes, it can do text now. So it's better in that respect. But being able to make an action figure
she's really ripped. What happened?
It's
impressive.
I asked it to really beef her out there.
Toned.
The action figure meme is killing me. Like what?
We're burning forests to do this. You understand?
I know, but that's a cute image, and then it will be in 2 seconds. We'll be on to the next thing. It's fine.
Yeah. So that's my question: is it getting better? I guess it's better at text. Yes.
I think it is getting better because it's getting more diverse and it does more types of things,
Right.
It rips off more forms of art. I mean, that's just clearly an evolution.
It's better at ripping off
our ability to feel is getting better all the time.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago on .NET Rocks, we talked to Dr. Jodo Burchell specifically about how to measure the quality of different LLMs.
That's the question. Yeah.
You've got a working app running under GPT-3 Plus right now.
Right.
If I switch to 4, how do I know it's better?
Yeah.
What does that even look like? And she's, one of the experts in the space, very much a original machine learning person.
The AI version of the Windows Experience Index or whatever they called it. That score.
A bunch of test suites. Like, these are the things you can test against.
Benchmarks. Yeah, that's what we need. More artificial benchmarks.
Well, they have benchmarks.
Artificial benchmarks.
Yeah, I know. But so now we're going to do what we do with CPUs and GPUs. We're just going to write these things to the benchmark.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, it is a machine learning model. So it's particularly designed to get good at benchmarks.
Right. That's one of the questions.
It's probably good enough it could just lie and output the,
exactly.
It would just artificially,
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when they use a Samsung to take a picture of the moon and it's somehow perfect every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think, for the people using it, it's like, who cares? I just want a picture of the moon.
I got a picture of the moon.
It's like, you could have just downloaded it from
Think of all the technology that had to work there. It had to realize that you were taking a picture of the moon. And then had to decide what phase the moon was in.
You have no idea the image recognition technology.
A lot of work. A lot of work. Burning more forests as we speak.
Hey, they're not going to burn themselves.
That's true. That's true. I'm thinking of doing a segment on our intelligent machine.
How many forests have to die?
Yeah. What I did this week to burn 3 forests.
So maybe that's the measure we're looking for. It's like number of trees that had to die for this operation to occur successfully.
Do you really want to think about that? Because it really is
Well, we were looking for a way to destroy civilization with a meme, and apparently this is it.
Faster and faster, better.
I want it to be efficient, but I also want it to be funny.
Yeah, you get a good. So now we're trying this with the action figure meme. There you go. Get 5 more memes like this. Maybe we can get there.
Yeah, how many megawatts does it use to do that? Right.
Right. I don't know. And then Meta, which I think we can all agree is the most trustworthy computing, technology firm on earth, says that they will start training their AI models using EU data for the first time. Just kidding. They've been doing it all along. But now they're actually going to,
they're willing to admit it.
Now we admit it.
Yeah, because they're the best. Mm-hmm. Love those guys. In fact, if you, Leo, ever want to start a Meta podcast, definitely.
No.
just start it out there.
It's funny you should say that because at our editorial meeting yesterday, one of our staff said, "Are we going to cover Meta's keynote?" And I said, "Nope."
I would. My only request of such a podcast would be that everyone had to get a perm that was on the show. That would be the importance.
I don't know why, because they're doing interesting stuff, but I just have no interest in covering. Like Google I/O, we're going to do build. We should do right. We'll do the build keynote. Yes,
the Satya keynote's at 9 a.m. on Monday,
so we're going to do that. Okay. We're going to do Apple's keynote in June because that's going to be of great interest. What Apple says about what excuses Apple gives.
I can't wait to see how they massage the Apple intelligence story. Yeah. But yeah.
So, and by the way, I should mention it for people who are saying, "Oh, good." Apple has now really tried to take us down a bunch of times for doing the Apple keynotes.
I feel like it's become a kind of a cute tradition that you guys have. It's fun.
So we stopped doing it on YouTube because we had an actual person say, we're going to ding you. So we stopped doing it on YouTube, and then they did it to us on Twitch, and we thought, you know what? We can't do this anymore.
Right.
So all the keynotes now are going to be in the club only. We're going to do them in the club Discord. The advantage of that is people will be able to participate. The disadvantage is if you're not a member of the club, you won't see it. So all of these keynotes we will stream. Mike and I are going to do the Apple one. If you guys want to do the build one, I think you're probably going to be at build, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But if you want to do it with us, we can. But we'll do that in the club as opposed to in public. If you're not a member of the club, this is another reason to join now.
This is like when the guys from MST went off and did their own, went off and whatever, and they would you'd have to have like a DVD of the movie, and then you would play their soundtrack somehow simultaneously. And it was like
copyright's a pain in the ass.
It's hard. That stuff's hard.
And honestly, this is fair because we're doing journalism. We're covering it and we're reporting on it.
You feel like there's some kind of a fair use argument to be made there? I mean, obviously, I don't even understand the argument otherwise.
Yes, and we even say, hey, if you want an uncommented version of this keynote, Apple's streaming it live. You can watch it there.
There's plenty of places to see that. I don't know.
To date, nobody else has complained, but Apple has so vociferously that we decided, well, why take the chance? Because honestly, if we got kicked off YouTube, that would be problematic.
It is an issue.
We stream on all those platforms, so including Meta, by the way, Facebook and LinkedIn, and Meta, and everywhere.
And Meta.
We don't stream on Instagram because we can't figure it out. TikTok. We stream on TikTok.
Stream your
Hello, TikTokers.
Oh, man. Oh, we missed something.
What? Did you get all the AI in?
Yes. No, I just was looking at the notes. I screwed something up, and then I missed a story, and I got to clean it up before you come back.
It's going to be all right.
Aren't you happy, ladies and gentlemen, you winners and dozers? You are watching the fabulous Windows Weekly. We do this every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And yes, you can watch it live on in our Discord, but on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and something else that I can't remember. Did I left one out?
Oh, you finally missed one.
Oh, damn it.
I thought this was your superpower. What happened?
Facebook, LinkedIn, Kick, X.com, and TikTok. There we go. 8.
Twitch?
I mentioned Twitch. So if you want to watch live, you can, but obviously it's a podcast. So really, the only reason you would watch live is so that you can be in the chats on these respective platforms. And I have this wonderful unified chat interface, so I can see all the nasty things everybody's saying on all the different platforms.
There's no better form of feedback than live feedback.
There you go. The best.
I remember, we've mentioned this before, when I taught Regis Philbin how to tweet. He was so excited about it for about a week, and then he realized that people were saying, not everybody was saying nice things. He said, I'm not doing this anymore. You got to have a little bit of a thick skin to be in the public.
You have to. No other way to do this.
All right, back to the program at hand. I think this would be a good time for Paul Thurrott to break out his Xbox chops. Paul?
This is a big week for Xbox and games. Yeah, big week. So there is an Xbox app on mobile, which on the face of things sounds kind of ludicrous because you could do almost nothing with it. And part of the problem is that, of course, Microsoft doesn't want to put, or can't put on iOS, I guess, paid stuff through there, or couldn't because of the App Store rules and blah, 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 whatever.
Like 30%. Apple take a chunk.
Yep. But that is going away, and they're not saying what happened, if anything. So
they're not allowed to.
They are going on iOS and Android, allow users to purchase games, meaning Xbox ecosystem games for PC or console.
That's fantastic.
Subscribe to Game Pass, which these are paid things. Normally Apple or Google would get a 30% whatever, and they didn't address if there's been some kind of an agreement or a change on the back end, or I don't know, but these things are changing. So that's actually really cool.
Well,
that's unexpected.
What did he mean when he said this is an Xbox?
Well, as you know, everything's an Xbox now. It's not confusing at all. In fact, they've made it simple.
Well, the fact that I don't know. Xbox games on my phone speaks to everything might just be an Xbox.
Yeah. Well, but it also speaks to something happened. I don't know. And that thing is not Microsoft agreed to pay the fee. So I guess we'll find out. That's kind of interesting.
They didn't eat the 30%. They're not.
There's no way they're eating the 30%. Yeah. That's too much money. Or even if it was 50, whatever. This is no way. So we'll see. We'll definitely hear more about that one. The thing I forgot to put in the notes, or didn't see when I did the notes, is there's a stream your own game feature that Xbox has been testing for consoles. It's now available publicly. It's not every single game you own, unfortunately. There's a licensing thing there, I guess, but there are over 100 Xbox games that aren't available on Game Pass, but are available to stream if you own.
So if I own it on my Xbox, I can then
not
play
install
it on my iPad, or
no?
What?
You're still so you stream it on your Xbox, but you don't install it.
Oh, you don't.
So in other words, you go to that same interface that you would use for cloud streaming, like Microsoft calls cloud gaming, because cloud streaming is too obvious. And whatever games you have in your library, you've paid for it digitally, right? Are there. So that's cool. And then they're adding, I guess, 19 more. I don't know if they added them already. They're coming soon, but there's a big list. There's over 100 now. So that's interesting.
I got an idea.
That's cool.
And actually, I should say, sorry, it's not just your console. These work on Samsung Smart TVs, Amazon Fire TVs, MetaQuest headsets. Yep. So
using the Xbox app, or
wherever Xbox can stream, I guess. So that's good.
Oh, that's neat.
I hadn't seen it. I just saw that when you were doing the ad. So I'm completely up on it. But I know they were testing this, and apparently now it's available in stable. So there must be a new system update or whatever. Yeah, there is. So, yep. And there's a couple other small things, but that's big. I mean, that's a big one. That's good. It is the second half of April. So now we have, am I doing things out of order? I think I am. Let me look at this again. Yep. So now we have a new set of Game Pass titles coming across console, PC, and cloud. And there's an Activision game in there, guys. The original version of Modern Warfare 2 is available, and that means you can stream it if you have cloud gaming through Xbox. God, there's so many names. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which I think is a first for that game. It's PC.
Oh, I want to play Crime Scene Cleaner.
I know, I saw that. That's crazy.
What the?
It's like the Dexter kind of game or whatever.
That's not a game. That's a job.
Neither is mowing a lawn, but that's a game too, right?
There's a lawn mowing
simulator.
Game?
Yeah, there's a lawn mowing simulator.
Some people find that stuff fun.
I know. It's crazy.
But you know what? Far Cry 4, before
that's a good
Ubisoft,
one. Yep.
That's jumped the shark.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah. Well, the greatest game of all time at this point, right? How many millions and millions?
I believe it's number 2 best-selling game of all time. I think after Minecraft, or it's right up there. Either way,
that's cool.
Yeah. So this is.
Oh, and Dredge. I played.
He's right. Wait. Oh, sorry. Laurent wrote this is the more recent one game. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong about the game. This is Modern Warfare 2. I know, but the more I guess it's the more recent version. I'm not actually sure. Looking at that, somebody out there will know.
Can you tell from the album art? I mean, does that? I don't.
That's the reason I thought it was the. Let me look it up. I'm sorry.
Where is it? Oh, there it is.
It's the
M with a skull on it, man.
I know, but I thought that was the old one. No, I guess it's the new one. I'm sorry. So Modern Warfare 3, the new one, and Black Ops 6, the latest, are on Game Pass, etc. Yeah. So now Modern Warfare 2 is coming there. That's actually pretty okay. So that's good too. That suggests that it must be the full game. So they must still have multiplayer that works, etc. So that's interesting. That suggests. So I have Call of Duty installed on a couple of PCs. I would imagine that will become available. That means I'm going to get another 130 gig update. That's great. Thanks, Microsoft.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Good. We're all fine.
You figured out a way to make me dread Activision games coming to Game Pass. That's fine. Anyway, that's a good one. This is a good set of games.
What if some of these titles end up making an iOS version, and now it's coming through your iOS device? Maybe there is a way for them to make money when the iOS version is available. You can buy it.
I actually wonder if the future of Call of Duty isn't the mobile version.
Yeah.
And in the same way that you can play against PC and PlayStation.
Maybe this
Xbox.
first story here about Xbox on mobile is a setup. It's
a setup.
You're preparing the landscape for being able to facilitate those games.
There's definitely something going on. That's the thing. It's bizarre to me
that everybody's on board for.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what comes out of this. I think there's something's going on. That's kind of interesting. The latest Doom game is coming out in mid-May, so actually about a month from now.
Sorry, why is there a new Doom game?
Why? Because they have to complete the trilogy. I don't know.
Why?
The new games are okay.
Like there's a new Half-Life 2 game, and then the world really has gone insane.
Well, I mean, the new Doom games are modern and different and whatever, but this one looks like it's more of a back to basics type thing from a playability perspective, which honestly I think is pretty smart. But Microsoft is coming out with some Doom or like themed a console and then some controllers. So if you're really into Doom and want everything to look like that,
I know someone who will buy this.
I think we all know someone who will buy it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. So that's kind of cool. And then, is there more? There's more, right? Yep. See if if you're not comfortable with my Xbox exclusive games going to the consoles, you might want to block yours. Sea of Thieves is going to Battle.net, which is Blizzard, which is part of Activision, which is part of Microsoft. So it's not that bad, I guess. But Battle.net is that console or just PC? I think it's probably just PC, right? Battle.net. I'm not really sure. I think so. And then I've looked at my own. I'm like, and then Meta will start training. It's like, no, that doesn't seem right. And then Sony is raising the price of their consoles in a lot of places, all over Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Probably because of the tariffs, right? I think we can just blame everything on that now.
Obviously, yeah.
So if you hadn't bought one by now, good luck. It's going to get more expensive.
I don't understand why it's only in certain locales, though.
Yeah, I don't know why either, actually.
It might have to do with tariffs, maybe?
It might actually have to do with tariffs because they're the processors and the chipsets, the graphics are all from AMD, right?
Yeah,
which is US based.
You're not okay. So they're buying the parts from the US.
I don't know.
So that'd be the tariffs.
So it's Europe, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yeah, this makes no sense. You're talking about a Japanese company.
They don't have tariffs with Japan, presumably.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like a Japanese company selling a product that, yes, is made with some American company components, but also a lot of other components.
And the American
in countries that are not the United States.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the United States puts on tariffs, it's for their imports, not their exports. So why are we raising prices again?
Well, like the Trump administration, you obviously don't understand how trade deficits work. So let me explain it. No, just like a friend of mine, ex-Microsoft guy, I think on Facebook, said something like, he said, so I went and I bought a bagel. So now I have a $5 trade deficit with the bagel shop. So I'm going to have reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah, make them pay.
Now they owe me $1,845. That's how trade tariffs work. So smart.
It's going to be fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. That's the Canadian in you, Richard. That's good. I like it.
There's 5
That's why you don't
teams
get
in
it.
the NHL playoffs. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. The Oilers, are they going? Are they on their way?
The Oilers are going, yes.
Yes.
Bloody McDavid. But look, and the Canucks are not in, so I pretty much am forced to cheer for the Oilers because I am not cheering for the Leafs.
Never.
I'm pretty sure you've just described different kinds of sushi. I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. Canuck.
When I was a kid, I had one of those.
Is that like a kind of oyster? What is that?
Yeah.
Those hockey games where you had sticks and they were attached to a player and you'd spin the stick and the player
of
spin
course.
and you hit the puck. I loved that game.
Yep.
And it was always the Maple Leafs versus the Canadiens.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I've only saw like the soccer version was like the way you spin the players around and
foosball. Yeah. This was great. It was a really fun hockey game.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
Air hockey, the air hockey game though was good too. Where they would actually hover above the table a little bit, like like that's pretty.
That took a little more energy though than this one.
Plus, you could get hit right in the forehead with that thing if you did it right.
It was fun though. If you really spun the player fast, you could hit the puck out of the into the wall.
Yeah, of course.
That
it would just
was
be
always
embedded in the wall
instead of flying.
That could have been my skull.
Hey, it's time for me to say a little something about our great club, Club Twit. We want you to join Club Twit, $7 a month. And now we've added the $84 a year plan. Why should you join, though? It's legitimate. I mean, if I'm asking for your money, here's why. The primary reason is even though we have ads, they are not sufficient to pay for everything. So we have to make up the gap. And that's why we created the club 2 years ago. And that's why we continue to do the club. And it's been great. We have had to cut back. You notice we might have shut down the studio and laid off people and things like that. But we're doing our part to, tighten our belt. And thanks to our Club Twit members, we're able to keep doing these shows. I hope you appreciate them. I hope you like them. If you join the club, you get ad-free versions of all the shows. I hate it when somebody charges you for something and then still plays an ad. So you don't get the ads. You don't even get this, solicitation. You just get the shows, pure and simple. You get a custom URL just for you with the ad-free versions of the shows. You also get access to the Club Twit Discord, a great hang. It's kind of my favorite social network now because there's smart people. It's kind of a self-selecting crowd of smart, interesting people who right now are doing mostly just playing foosball, it looks like, in the club. But it is a great place to hang out. There's also special events that we do. I mentioned we're going to be doing keynotes from now on in the club, like WWC, DC, Build, Google I/O. We also have Micah's Crafting Corner that's coming up. We do that every month. Micah, I think he's building Lego succulents right now. But you don't have to be doing Lego. You can do any craft. Join Micah tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for just a chill hang. Friday, it's coffee time. YouTube coffee star Liz Happy Beans joins coffee geek Mark Prince and me to talk coffee at 1 p.m. Pacific on Friday. Again, these are all club exclusives. The AI user group on the fourth Friday of every month, we talk about how we use AI. Hands-on tech. Stacy's book club is coming up next month. The WWDC keynote will add the other keynotes into that. So that's all special stuff for club members only, which I love. But the biggest reason to join the club is for the animated GIFs. No, the biggest reason to join the club is because you will get the warm and fuzzy feeling that you're helping create these shows, put them on the air, and we really appreciate it. Now, I should say we did bring back the annual fee, and we are right now in the process. Probably, I think we're going to ask for a little more in the club starting soon because costs are going up. But what we're going to do is guarantee that if you subscribe now, that this price stays. So you won't get an increase if you're already a member. New members only. Okay, new and returning members. So don't give up your club membership. And if you're not a member, sign up now to lock in that $7 a month. I think it's a very, very reasonable amount. You get an awful lot, I believe. We hope you do too. twit.tv/clubtwit. Now, back to the program already in progress. We start the back of the book portion of the program with Paul Thurrott's tip of the week. Paul? Oh, you're muted. Did I mute you? No, you muted.
Nope, I did it. Self-censoring here. Last week I wrote these back-to-back articles about kind of like, it wasn't really meant to be a theme, but it was kind of like this notion of alternatives to these big tech, monolithic platforms, yada, yada, yada. And I wrote this thing that I wrote, whatever, and I was like, okay. And then it triggered this memory, and I ended up writing a second one. And in the early 2000s, when I was working at Windows IT Pro, I think a lot of Microsoft guys who were involved in IT kind of fell into this trap a little bit, especially back then, where you started thinking like, I'm gonna manage my home like it's the workplace. I'm gonna have like a managed environment, maybe Active Directory if it was that long ago, or Intune maybe if it's more recently or something. And I'm gonna, my family is all gonna sign in with these like accounts and blah blah blah. And they try to do that. You try to go through this, right? And so I went through various.
This is what I did. Yeah. My children came to me saying, apparently I need to speak to my administrator.
Right. Yep. So, okay. And look, if you think about the history of this stuff, in the very early 1980s, VisiCalc, drove Apple II sales into businesses, right? Mm-hmm. Where this thing was personal computing. And then the success of Windows and Office in the 90s, I think kind of turned it in the other direction where people wanted to get these computers at home, and so they could run some of the same software they had at work. I remember my wife owned a PS1, like IBM, those little crappy computers they sold at Sears. Yeah. And so she could have WordPerfect, right? Which is what she was using at work, like DOS version of WordPerfect. We've been doing this ever since then, and look, as we call it enshirtification now, but one form of enshirtification that we would certainly get from Microsoft is they made a switch. I'd have to think about the exact. I think it was Office 2000 where they were targeting businesses, not individuals by this point. Yeah. So it kind of went from enthusiasts to mainstream individuals, and features. And then businesses and then enterprises. And so, when Microsoft does this stuff in Office or Windows where they're pointing you in certain directions, yes, that's terrible on all kinds of levels. But a lot of it has to do with this kind of centralized control or whatever over users, which as an individual, it's like, I don't know. It's weird to me. Apple didn't
even mention Windows Home Server. Like that was a good couple.
No, that was I could go through the whole lineage there. I had an active server domain with literal Windows Server, whatever standard edition, probably. I did small business server sometimes with multiple machines. I had rack mounted stuff. I did Centro, which was the medium business server. I can't remember what they shipped under what name that was.
Enhanced, the EBC.
Yeah. And of course, all the home server permutations, including the stuff that came afterwards, which was Essentials, like Windows Server Essentials, I think was the name of it, maybe at some point, or whatever those things were. I went through every version of this, version. But the thing is, we've always had alternatives. You could have bought a Mac at any time in this thing. There's a whole ecosystem there, obviously. But I feel like right now we're in this golden age of these solutions, right? And I don't think we talked about this last week, but when you look at stuff like Notion, right? So Notion just came out with Notion Mail, which is actually my app pick in a minute. Mm-hmm. Proton has that whole suite of stuff. Slack, whatever, you can kind of mix and match now. Alternate web browsers is something that comes up all the time. Opera just updated their browsers.
And the contemporary hardware for a home server now is a Synology or
exactly. And that's, by the way, that was my end game. It will be my end game. I went to a WD NAS, which is basically unmanaged, really. But the next thing I do will be a Synology NAS for sure. Yeah, of course. And it's simpler and it does what you want. And I would call that more of a prosumer product than like a business product, right? Like Microsoft looks at things from a certain way, And anyway, the theme there is just like, you're not an enterprise, so like, why are you acting like one? Like why,
Why are you doing this to yourself?
Yeah. So
I only did it when I was down to just managing she who must be obeyed. And listen, that's a failure path. Stop.
Oh,
it's not going to work out for you.
No, same. I never fully pulled the trigger on this. I think there was an understanding, like I had this thing and it was and I had different things running for many, many years. And for a lot of it, it was really just for me, which was stupid, but it's just too much. You know how it is. Like your wife walks in your room and she's like, I can't print or I can't, like you don't want to have these conversations, it's like, I just want to get life. I have to get going.
Get rid of the network printer. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you need a scanner. Here's a USB one, plug it in. It's yours. I don't want to know about it.
Exactly. Same. Yeah. No. So, all right. So at home in Pennsylvania, that's right. Same. She has all the stuff upstairs. I don't even know what it is. I don't even care.
If I really need to print something, it works. Never do. I walk up with a USB key to her machine.
Oh, I just email it. But
life is too short.
Exactly.
It's just too short.
It's just not worth it. So,
don't do it.
And on that note, so Notion Mail just came out. So they've been working on this for a while. They bought a company. They Notion Calendar now. Love Notion. I think I just asked this last week or the week before, when is Notion going to start charging me? And this is the answer, because Notion Mail requires Notion AI to do anything. It's a front end for Gmail only. I think they don't say this, but I think it might always only be a front end for Gmail. It's AI powered, so it does all kinds of cool views and stuff. But if you want to do your own customizations to it, you have to pay for Notion AI. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, but it's interesting. I don't really use, Notion AI is not something you pay for to use in Mail. It's something you pay for to use across Notion, right? So Notion is the app, but it's also with Calendar and now Mail. So they're starting to build this little suite, It's interesting to me that they don't have their own email service, right? They're going to just use Gmail. Gmail's free. I mean,
it's hard to argue with.
But you would have to pay for Notion AI for this to make any sense. And, if you use Notion as much.
Still aren't doing, and it confuses me.
It confuses me too. I feel like at some point I'm going to try to add a page or a note or whatever they call it. They're going to be like, oh, you hit the limit. You have 1 million notes and you have to pay. If you go over 1 million, you got to pay.
You're done.
It boggles my mind that this hasn't happened.
I don't know why they haven't pinged you and said, here's a free license. Tell us how to just remind everyone how awesome we are.
There you go. Well, that would be another. Okay, I would be okay with that too. But I wouldn't. I don't know. I guess at some point, if I end up paying for Notion and this Notion AI is part of that thing I'm paying for, and thus it makes Notion Mail make sense, I guess I would look at it. But for now, they have a web client and a Mac client. They will have an iOS client soon. They've never said anything about Windows or Mac. I can tell you the web app is installable. It's a PWA, so you can have a sort of app, but you're not going to get that offline, whatever experience, obviously. Right. Well, maybe not obviously. I should say that. I'm actually not even sure. Maybe you can. I don't know. It's certainly a possibility, but I don't know. I think just only working with Gmail is a little self-limiting, but maybe that was smart on their part. I'm not really sure. Something to look at anyway, especially if you use Gmail.
Yeah, my frustration is I signed up to Notion Mail with a non-Gmail account and it won't let me use that. I have to, it says, well, you have to be signed in with your Gmail account
and you
can't combine them. No.
Oh,
it's
very
frustrating.
No, that's not good.
No, it's not.
And even, I'd like
to try it.
Yeah, you can't have two. You can't have two accounts signed into the Notion app, can you? I bet you can't.
No, I can't figure it out. Every time I try to do it, it says, no, you have to be using your Gmail account.
Yeah, this is a hard computer science problem.
It's fine. I didn't really want Notion Mail. So I'm okay.
How would you know?
But
I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I want to see what the AI integrations do and all that stuff. And I pay for Notion.
Notion has a good vibe to it, kind of a minimalist kind of look,
I've been trying. I set up a local wiki that I'm serving from the house, and I'm trying to move everything over to that. But it's
a local wiki. What do you?
Well, I mean, it's also on the net.
No, I know, but you're hosting it yourself. You mean
I'm hosting self-hosted wiki?
So what's the software? What's
I can't remember. It's a.
Does it?
I'll tell you in a sec. I mean, it's
like what's the? Is this on Linux or like?
Yeah, it's on Linux. I have a little server, and it's running in the background. And I have a domain. I guess you could go there, laporte.wiki. Okay. And then you would see my wiki, but you wouldn't be able to use it because you have to have a login.
Right.
There you go.
But the theory is I should be able to replace pretty much everything I do with Notion with my own self-hosted stuff.
Yep. And there's probably all kinds
easy.
I know. Notion. That's the thing that they created something very. It's very sticky.
It's sticky, but it bugs me because all the data is on their server. It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Else.
Which is which is part of the quest, right? So whether it's Obsidian or there's a bunch of these things. Any type, I think is one. There's a bunch, but no, I started moving stuff over. It's just I have a lot to move. I have a lot of Notion. There's a lot in Notion. I've been using it. It's like trying to move between music services. If you made a couple of playlists, you're screwed,
man. Yeah.
Well, there are tools to do it, but it ends up being a pain in the butt.
Nothing.
No, but the tools stink. Like it's so many mistakes every time. It's bad.
Here's my Laporte family wiki with us.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, that's how I know
it's a mirror. Oh my god. Oh no. Okay.
That's how I know it's mine. But I forgot my password, so no, I had it. I can't remember what software I use. It's some it's just some I think it's a Docker container running it.
Yeah, I always have to leave notes for myself of how to fix a Docker thing.
I know.
I'll never
really
remember. I never remember.
It's easy to set up. I mean, that's the beauty of it.
Oh, yeah,
it's really easy to set up.
As soon as anything
goes wrong, you don't know what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always figure it out and get it working again. And I just have to write a note to myself and leave it there. It's like, hey, that's dummy, read this.
Oops, I got the wrong two-factor. I'm hoping like somewhere I'll see what it is. Yeah, I got it. Go back. That page does not exist.
Nice.
What? That page exists. All right. Anywho, I think it's time for Richard's run his radio. Sorry to bog down the show with my stupid wiki. Go ahead.
Tech support problems. Did a show with my friend Barbara Forbes. Been on before.
Wiki.js. Sorry, it just said it. Wiki.js.
Which
Barbara Forbes. Tell me more.
Well, it's from a talk she did called "How Not to Hate PowerShell," which I thought was hilarious. So, but the conversation,
don't use it.
Yeah.
No, PowerShell's awesome.
No,
PowerShell is great.
Why would you hate it?
Well, here's how you do this. And one of the things it's pointed to is how sophisticated organizations are getting with PowerShell. What's happening is that senior people are building more and more sophisticated PowerShell scripts to the point where nobody can maintain them. They're just too complicated. There's too many moving parts. And so you get in a situation where the juniors try to do something, they get into trouble, the senior has to bail them out, and eventually it's like, don't touch it, just leave it alone, which is exactly the same track we get into in traditional software development all the time.
Right.
And so we fight against that with good documentation practices, simplification, like keeping stuff organized so that other people can maintain it. And that's just not a thing that administrators necessarily think about. So it's just become this odd reality that PowerShell's now at a point where they're having the same problems that software developers have. And because this stuff's software.
It is software. Right.
Yeah. And so just the other one we got into was, they're getting good enough with the tool. They're starting to do really challenging things and often trying to get to that 100% perfect solution that is incredibly complex, where the 80% solution was simple to maintain, easy to understand, And the 20% you have to do by hand is not that much work. So why do you care? Right. So it was just trying to strike that balance, sort of what's a reasonable thing to do with these scripts and how do you make it so that the team can take care of it? And so as much as it was sort of a gag going in, it turned into a really solid conversation about being responsible inside your organization.
I like it.
Yeah.
I might have to listen to that one.
It's a keeper. And I really enjoyed it. And it's like one of those things where we just run around and it's like, wait, this is actually important and profound. How did that happen?
For all programmers. And I mean, this applies to all tools, really.
Without a doubt. We get into this problem every time, right?
Yeah. Runasradio.com for the latest Runas, episode 980. I am excited about this whiskey of the week.
Yes. We'll call this the MVP series, right? Because these are all the whiskeys that I got while I was at the MVP Summit.
Somebody brought you something nice, this looks like.
This is from fellow MVP John White from Hawaii, and it's called the 12th Hawaii Distillers Distiller Reserve. And so a little bit about Hawaii. We should probably do this. So this, if you weren't keeping track, there's 137 islands in the Hawaiian chain.
What? Wow.
It's more than you think. Most of them are, of course, uninhabited. There are 8 main islands, and really we're just going to talk about one, the big one, Hawaii itself. Which is not where
Honolulu is or any of the big city stuff. That's Oahu.
That's Oahu. This is Hawaii proper, which is the 3rd largest Polynesian island.
Oh.
Which begs the question, what are the first 2? The first 2 are the North and South Islands of New Zealand.
Well,
they're all considered Polynesian islands.
And is that where all of the Polynesian diaspora came from originally, was New Zealand, do you think?
No. In fact, the Polynesians got to Hawaii before they got to New Zealand and became the Maori. There's pretty clear evidence that the Polynesians arrived in the Hawaiian Islands in the 1100s and didn't get to New Zealand until the 1300s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They were a seafaring tribe, though.
They were, and they traveled absolutely everywhere. There's an argument that they made it all the way to South America, and the genetics seem to support that.
Wow. Do they know where they originated?
The Polynesian Islands, the original Polynesian Islands are adjacent to the Philippine Sea in that area in Indonesia. All of those smaller islands there.
It's very cool.
It's amazing and extraordinary people navigating with simple products. They had the chicken.
They brought the chicken with them.
And they brought the chicken with them. They spread the chicken around. And one argued that they also were the reason the pineapple propagated as far as it has. But that's getting into really old history. The big Hawaiian island is not heavily populated because it has massive volcanoes on it, including Kilauea, which has been erupting since 1983. And you go to watch that volcano do its thing. Mauna Loa, which is the largest volcano on Earth, is actually the largest mountain on Earth. If you measure from the sea floor to its top, it's bigger than Everest. And it's more than half of the total Hawaiian island of Hawaii itself. Supposedly, the island is named for the legendary Polynesian navigator Hawaiialoa, who supposedly discovered the island. And as I mentioned, in the 1100s, and it was run as a kingdom more or less for centuries. The first Europeans to arrive was likely James Cook in the 1700s, who also died there in an altercation with the natives. Although ultimately the crew was able to settle things up and leave successfully. And then, of course, in 1898, it was annexed by the United States as a territory. Hawaii, and in 1959 became the 50th state. So while it's the biggest island by a long way, it's more than 60% of the total mass of all of the islands combined. Only about 13%, about 200,000 people live on that island. Really in 2 main population centers, Hilo in the east, which is the island capital, and sort of the rainy part of the island. And then on the west is Kaluakona on the slopes of one of the volcanoes. And that is where the distillery is. So the 12th Hawaiian distiller is called that because it is the 12th distillery built on the Hawaiian Islands.
It's funny,
and the first one on Kona since the 1950s.
You don't think of whiskey in Hawaii.
Nor should you.
Breath.
And we can debate whether this is whiskey at all.
Oh.
So Dave Puckett created it. He was actually comes from a family of distillers, but didn't want to be a distiller. He actually worked in construction his whole life, living a big chunk of it in Hawaii. And as he was getting close to retirement age, started experimenting with distillation in the early 2010s.
Oh, it's brand new.
And only set up the shop licensed in 2017.
Oh.
Now, is this whiskey? It sure looks like whiskey, doesn't it? Except that it is honey.
What? It's really mead.
This is mead. You're exactly right. This is distilled mead. So really what they would call honey shine. So arguably, we are talking about the very original alcohol. Because if you take honey and you heat it up to a certain amount, not particularly hot, maybe 120 degrees or so, with a lot of water, maybe typically you want to mix 5-to-1 water, that helps break down the honey and suspend the sugars properly so that it can be digested by yeast, but you have to cool it down a bit. And if it 120, it would kill the yeast off. You need to be about 95, 90, and the yeast will propagate and ferment. Because in the end, all of these alcohols are made by a yeast consuming sugar. The question is, what is the sugar source? In this case, honey is one of the original sugar sources. So there's evidence now that evidence of a naturally occurring alcohol by water and honey being combined with yeast going back 20,000 years.
Wow.
Before agriculture, before even pottery.
Yeah.
We had some forms of alcohol in this way. There are documents from China from 7,000 BC showing making a form of mead out of honey and water and rice. And of course, Pliny the Elder wrote about his preferred drink being a form of mead in ancient Greece, and played a big role in early England as well, particularly around in Wales. In fact, when you research mead for a little while, you find out there's over 100 names for a honey beer, a mead type thing, because so many cultures developed it themselves in so many ways.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't.
Names.
I mean, Hawaii's known for sugar cane.
It is now, but it also had its own set of bees, and so had a lot of honey available to it. Which begs the question: why isn't mead and honey-related liquors more popular than they are today? And there's a pretty simple reason for it: because the sugar cane and grains are cheaper and easier to grow. Honey is an inconsistent product. In the end, it's bee vomit. And bees are fairly difficult to manage. They don't produce when you want them to produce. They only make so much. They can abruptly die, and their product is inconsistent. So making a consistent product from honey is very challenging. And so as soon as we had simpler ways to do it, we did. And so that's why you just don't see a whole lot of it around. That being said, this is what 12th Hawaii does. And actually, they make a set of products. So our sort of root product is true honey shine, which is a honey ferment made with yeast that's passed 4 times through their still, which is a kind of column still. And that's it. It's not that particularly sweet, but it is a 50% alcohol. It's a moonshine, essentially, but it's called honey shine. You take that same product made that same way, and you combine it with a bit of Kona coffee, so domestically grown coffee, and you get their Kona coffee spirit.
Oh, now I'm interested. That sounds good.
And then they make a vodka. So their vodka is, again, the same approach, but a 7-time distilled, so a much higher alcohol, combined with a local purple potato, which is some of the original Peruvian type potatoes, to make a distinctive vodka. And then the fourth product is this distiller's reserve. So back to the honey shine, but when they were making it, they switched to a whiskey yeast, which has a bit of a stronger flavor. And then what really made it whiskey-ish is they age it in Kauai wood, which is a domestic wood of Hawaii. Actually, no, it's an invasive wood. It's originally from South America.
Most of the stuff on Hawaii I found out is invasive. It's not native.
It's pretty invasive. And so it was brought from South America in the 19th century. It's pretty much adapted to Hawaii. They're not trying to eliminate it anymore. But it's not an oak. It's actually a cousin of mesquite.
Huh.
And so Kauai wood is very popular as a smoking wood.
Right.
But if you get the bigger trees, you can cut barrels from it. And that's what they're doing at the 12th Hawaii Distillers Reserve, is they're making domestic barrels, which they toast very much the same style as a bourbon barrel and then do aging with it.
So they make a honey shine, which is clear. Is the only difference between the honey shine and the whiskey the barrels?
And they use a different yeast.
A whiskey yeast. Yeah.
So different yeast. And
does that give it a different character?
the yeast plays a role, right?
Yeah.
Remember, generally, if the sugars are all digested, which typically they are by the bacteria, you don't have a lot of sweetness there. In fact, often in traditional meads, they'll add additional honey after the fact.
It doesn't taste like honey. Yeah.
There's no sweetness left in it.
Yeah.
Now this, having a taste of this, so it smells like bourbon. It's sweet, right? You would swear it's corn. It's got that same kind of sweetness. And it is 45% alcohol, but really no burn on the mouth at all. It still smells sweet and tasty. There's a little spice to it. That's got to be wood. It's a different
That's the mesquite.
kind of,
sure.
It's not the oak wood. Yeah. It's got that kind of interesting wood flavor to it. It heats up as it goes down. So you've definitely drank something. Again, at 45%, it's not incredibly high. But this is really cool. This is a neat drink. There's two problems with it. The first is it's $85.
Oh.
The second is it is available nowhere outside of the Hawaiian Islands.
Awesome.
You've got to go.
Or go to the
Hawaii
MVP Summit. Yeah.
to get a bottle of this. So
that's awesome.
The bottle I've got that John brought back for me, and thank you so much, John. I'm really delighted with this, is batch 34. And it's handwritten on the bottle. So I don't think that's a fake print. I think they just don't make that much of this. Apparently they have an awesome tour. It's well worth going.
I want to go to the Big Island. We haven't been there.
The Big Island. Go to Kona, which is where you want to go anyway. Take in the nice weather, and I think you should take a little spin by. If you're lucky, you're going to bump into the distiller there, and
Dave.
To see Dave, and then go home with a bottle of Distiller's Reserve. You'll not be disappointed. And the fun I would have with this, my intent with this, is to feed it to my whiskey knowledgeable friends, because I defy you to think this is honey.
Wow.
It's
how
so
cool is that?
Yeah. It's just so bourbony, like you can't even imagine.
Oh, love it. That looks like a real treat.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted to try something new, to have spent time reading about mead production and just sort of dig into this oldest of the alcohols, which only makes sense because you need the sugar to produce the alcohol, and it's the original sugar.
I might want to try the coffee spirits, and I've got to try Honey Shine because I just wonder what that tastes like.
You might want to just come home with one of each.
Okay, you sold me. Richard Campbell, thank you for another great treat. Wow, look at this.
I like the direction this whole thing's going, where people are now bringing me things I've never heard of, and I get to go tell the story.
Isn't that
and
great?
Be blown away.
Oh, the joys. Now, if they ever make an avocado whiskey, I hope you'll let me know.
There's a lot of sugar in there.
It's a little bland. It's also curiously green.
Yeah. Richard Campbell is at runasradio.com. That's where he hangs his hat and his podcasts, including Run As Radio and .NET Rocks with Carl Franklin. And if you're at a summit and you happen to have a bottle of something interesting, bring it to him.
I will tell its story, I promise.
Hey, Mikey, he likes it.
He likes it. Mikey likes it. You don't always like it.
It's going to be you've heard me say terrible things about some bad whiskeys.
But sometimes it's good, even if it's bad, to know.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. No, it would be fun for someone if you gave them something and then you actually liked it,
Yeah. No, and this one wowed me. I have already tasted the one for next week, which is actually Tasmanian.
Oh.
And
well, you're going to be down under, so that's
that one. I will be down under, so the timing is impeccable. I did this deliberately, but I might bump it out too if I find something while I'm in Sydney. But we'll see what happens. But it was a punch in the face. That's what I'll tell you.
Mr. Campbell, have a safe trip. Enjoy that long flight to New Zealand.
I got upgraded already, so I'm
going to be lucky dog.
Are you on Qantas or?
No, United.
United. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have a safe trip. We'll talk to you next week in Australia.
In Sydney. Yeah.
In Sydney. Paul Thurrott, he is at thurrott.com. That's where he hangs his hat. His books are at leanpub.com. And that includes the field guide to Windows 11, of course, Windows Everywhere. Together, they make the dynamic duo that hosts Windows Weekly. We do it every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch it on those 8 different streams, or better yet, just get a copy of it after the fact at twit.tv/WW. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast player, get it automatically. There's even a YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly. It's a great way to share stuff. Little clips of the show and help us spread the word. Time to figure
Sounds
out.
Sounds like an illicit drug thing, but it's
nice. Share your stuff, man.
Whatever you want to share.
Share your kit. Paul and Richard, have a wonderful week.
You too.
Thank you.
And we'll be back here next Wednesday. All you winners and dozers for Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.